dragons out there.
I bet you think you know a lot about dragons.
Can I know you?
No, but I'll never forget.
On June 13th.
That's your mother?
I'll find you closer than you ever thought possible.
This is amazing!
When the training ends,
Drago's coming for our dragons.
We have to save them.
the real adventure begins.
We can't fly these things. They're babies. They don't listen to anyone. Oh!
DreamWorks How to Train Your Dragon 2 in 3D. Rated PG.
And the marketing on this one, sadly, was not the greatest overall. But, you know, with these movies, it's just like you have to judge. You can't just judge the book by its cover. Kung Fu Panda is one of the best examples of that. And even the first How to Train Your Dragon was one of those movies that really not a lot of people were expecting it to be that great, but turned out to be one of DreamWorks' best movies overall. And I was really looking forward to seeing this one, despite the lackluster TV spots. The trailers were great, man. I mean, anytime you throw that song "Kings and Queens" from 30 Seconds to Mars, it's just a great song overall. And it's just like, for a movie like How to Train Your Dragon, it just fits that song very, very well. It fits the tone of the movie very well too. But not only did this movie meet my expectations, they pretty much exceeded them. This delivered on everything I was hoping for that the movie was going to deliver when I first saw that teaser last summer, and it delivers on everything a good sequel should do. It gives us a better story development, the animation is crisper and better, and more importantly, it does up the ante in terms of the action and drama to the point where one of the main characters dies in this movie, and not going to say who it is if you haven't seen it already, but it's really sad. It's not just put in there for the cheap dynamics, but it's there to evolve the story in general and allow us to grow more with these characters, which is what makes the sequel more interesting, because it does something that not a lot of sequels really did back then, and that's grow the characters in time. I mean, these characters got older since the last time we saw them. I mean, these characters do look very different. Not only show that they look older than the last time, but even in the show that they did between these, they show that they're fully capable of handling any situation this time around. Unlike the last movie, nobody's talking down to Hiccup, not even his father. He knows what he's doing up until he confronts the villain and knows what he's going up against. And, you know, one of the big things in the trailer is that we meet Hiccup's mother, voiced by Cate Blanchett, and we find out she was taken by a dragon when Hiccup was a baby, and her father believed that a dragon killed her. And I like the relationship between Valka and Sto definitely showing prominently here when they're reunited. Once again, it's not forced by any means necessary. It feels genuine and realistic, and the brief time they have together on screen shows they really do have a good relationship, and they do still love each other, even after everything that has happened between the two of them is in this world. I like the newcomers in here. Kit Harington pulling in his best Christian Bale impersonation as Eret. I mean, seriously, I thought it was Christian Bale the first time I heard it, but John Mahansu as Drago, the main villain, and cue your Rocky IV Drago scream, because, yeah, it had to be done. But, yeah, Drago is your typical bad guy who just wants to take over the world, of course. Insert your Street Fighter M. Bison, of course, meme. But where in the first movie they went up against a freaking giant-ass dragon just because it's a giant-ass dragon that feeds on the small dragon slaves if it can't get enough food. Drago is just a power-hungry villain. The action is much more epic this time around, with a ton of brilliantly shot action sequences, and the animation, once again, top-notch. It was definitely worth it seeing it in 3D on a big screen for those amazing flying scenes, and they looked incredible. Like, the big difference between this and the How to Train Your Dragon live-action movie simply was the fact that the live-action movie was nothing but a rip-off of the first movie, but How to Train Your Dragon 2 not only has the great visuals, but the great storytelling to go along with it. There's nothing really bad I could say about this movie, except the fact that the villain may not be as strong as the first film was, but even then, John Mahansu is still pretty good as the villain in general, but, I mean, it exceeded my expectations when I saw it back then. I was really going into it hoping it was going to be good, but it upped the game on everything you could have asked for. It upped the ante on the animation, the story, the action, the drama, the tension, the comedy. It just came together, and DreamWorks has another solid animated sequel from a company that has already given us Shrek 2, Kung Fu Panda 2, Madagascar 2, and now How to Train Your Dragon 2. I mean, if it wasn't for the Lego movie, this would have been the best animated movie of the year. And it's a year where we got a lot of good animation in general here. And this one definitely is a high must-see for any fan of the original film. It continues the story on from the previous film and works very well, outlasting the first film, which is very hard to do, but it just works, man. It's a terrific film. I can't recommend this one enough. How to Train Your Dragon 2. Seek it out if you haven't already seen it already.
Maggie, I'm your new neighbor.
Take me, God. Don't play with me.
The Los Angeles Times raves St. Vincent is impossible not to love.
I can watch the kid after school.
No!
Melissa McCarthy is remarkable.
What kind of a man takes a child to a racetrack?
Is it fun? A little. Yeah, good.
While Naomi Watts is a wrecking ball.
When will you become like them?
And the New York Post says Bill Murray won't be forgotten come Oscar time.
Are you drinking alcohol?
I honestly don't remember.
St. Vincent, rated PG-13, October 10th.
Yeah, the bad news is that Bill Murray sadly did not get an Oscar nomination for this, and I do mean sadly because this is a performance that definitely should have gotten him a nomination. He should have won one at this point, man, for God's sakes. I mean, the guy's had so many opportunities to win one, but this was one where he should have gotten nominated for this at least, but this movie, sadly, was one of those films where it's one of the best movies of the year, and yet when it came out, it did good business, but then after it came out, pushed off to the side, like it didn't even matter, so it's a good thing there's a show like this to tell you how good of a movie this is, because this is one of the best movies I saw in 2014. In it, Bill Murray plays Vincent, a drunken gambling war veteran retiree who gets recruited by his newly single mom named Maggie, played by Melissa McCarthy, to watch over his small-grown 12-year-old son Oliver, played by Jaden Liebner. Vincent's ideas of after-school activities involve racetracks, strip clubs, but eventually the mismatched pair begin to help each other grow up. And like I said, we've always respected Bill Murray as one of those definitive actors out there. This is a guy that knows how to handle comedy, but also knows how to handle dramatic roles very well. And we've seen it in a number of movies. And this really is one of the best movies I saw that year. I mean, this is a terrific, terrific film. And it's not just because of Murray, who's always fascinating to watch on screen. It certainly has a lot of great comedic moments in here, but because the film is just so well done. The rest of the cast is outstanding. I love Naomi Watts playing Vincent's girlfriend in this. I mean, it's a really solid Naomi Watts performance. Probably one of my favorite ones since King Kong, honestly. Jaden Liebner's pretty good in his feature film debut, and Melissa McCarthy finally gets put into a role where she's not playing the obnoxious fat woman or the comic relief. No, she's actually playing a well-thought-out, interesting character, a single mother in the middle of a divorce, and the script is very good in not resorting her to just another stereotype role and actually makes her a character. You also have performances that are not really talked about all that much by Terrence Howard, Chris O'Dowd, and Scott Adsit, doing pretty good jobs in smaller capacity roles. The story is very good working to the advantage of the cast and not going into predictable territory. And for a movie like this, you think it's going to go into Oscar bait territory, like The Judge, but it doesn't do that. It's a film that finds a good balance of comedy and drama, and even midway through the film, when Vincent has the stroke and he has to be in rehab, they find humor in something serious like a stroke. And yeah, strokes are not fun. I've never had one. I hope I never had one, but they're not fun at all, but this movie finds that perfect balance overall, and I think it helps that you have a good director in Theodore Melfi, who makes his directorial debut on this, and this is a strong debut for him. I mean, this is a great showcase that shows what Bill Murray is capable of. Like I said, he's one of our great actors. Melissa McCarthy gets a chance to do a role outside her normal work that works very well. It's just a solid, very funny movie, and a nicely made dramedy, too, that sets itself up as one of the strongest films to come out this year. It's a movie that deserves a lot more attention than it deserves, and it shames me that this thing didn't get more recognition besides a Golden Globe nomination for Murray. I mean, that's a given at this point, but to put him in the same category with a Golden Globe rather than an Oscar, it's not really all that different. The Golden Globes back then were not as legitimate as people made them out to be back then. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, but if you haven't seen St. Vincent yet, see it. It is definitely one of the best movies of the year, one of the most underrated films of the year. Can't recommend it enough. St. Vincent, see it.
America's biggest star
It's heaven time! You're black ass crazy.
is coming home for the holidays.
Chelsea doing a story on me? No snitching.
I'm gonna turn over like an apple pie.
You just ate an apple pie, you fat.
Chris Rock, top 5, rated R.
Yet another one of those great movies that was highly praised when it came out and then just flopped at the box office because the studio, I think, didn't really do their homework on how to sell this movie in general. I don't think they really were giving it that push to be the Oscar contender that they probably were expecting it to be, but this is still a fantastic movie, man. Chris Rock stars as a comedian who's trying to make it as a serious actor when his reality TV star fiancée, played by Gabrielle Union, talks him into broadcasting their wedding on her TV show. Throughout the film, he's being interviewed by a New York Times reporter, played by Rosario Dawson, who asks him about his personal life and what made him want to stop doing comedy. And of course, this isn't Chris Rock's first time behind the director's chair. He also did I Think I Love My Wife, which is another underrated gem of a film. And he also did Head of State, which is overall okay. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing, but I still enjoyed it. But this right here is not just Chris Rock's best directorial outing. It is easily one of the best movies of the year. One of the funniest comedies I had seen in a long time when I first saw this. I mean, everyone was putting this as Chris Rock's Annie Hall, and this is definitely that. This is a very smart, very clever, very funny film that proves that Chris Rock is definitely a comic force that's not to be messed with. It's a very funny satire on the same levels as Funny People that not only allows Rock to lampoon himself, but also Hollywood too. There's also a lot of satirical jokes about not just Rock himself, but him lampooning Adam Sandler's work. Like I said, he's lampooning Adam Sandler's work, celebrities are getting arrested, reality shows, just so many other things that would take too long to go on about. But the most interesting aspect of this is that it doesn't fall for the same romantic comedy cliches. Even when it looks like it's going to. Like, there's a great scene where Rock and Dawson are getting ready to have sex in the bathroom, but they don't. And for a romantic comedy to not go into those cliches, that's awesome. That's okay in my book. A great cast in this movie in general here. Rock and Dawson are great together. The other actors in here are great. You see a little bit in that trailer there, you know. J.B. Smoove, Romany Malco, Gabrielle Union, Tracy Morgan, Ben Vereen, Kevin Hart, Sherry Shepard, Leslie Jones, Michael Che, Cedric the Entertainer, Jay Farrow, cameos by people like Jerry Seinfeld, Whoopi Goldberg, Adam Sandler, Taraji P. Henson, DMX. I mean, this is a good cast in this movie, and the drama is really good too. Two scenes in particular really took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it. There's one where Rock's character Andre just loses it, and it's one of the running gags of the movie. Like, he's known for being this character in Hammy the Bear. He comes back in his face. It comes back in his face when he's in a grocery store getting drunk and looking around and seeing that they actually have a Hammy the Beer available, and he just snaps big time. Like, it's a scene where I could honestly see a celebrity known for one thing that everyone loves, losing their shit big time and doing the exact same thing that Rock did in that scene in real life. Like, I think the more funnier scene in this is where you see DMX singing Charlie Chaplin's Smile, and from you hear DMX singing a Charlie Chaplin song, and it's the biggest laugh of the movie. I never thought I would see the day where DMX would be singing a 1930 song without rapping at all. If there's any real flaws with this movie, there's a couple of things. One, Cedric the Entertainer, like I said, he's fine in this, but he is kind of acting a little over the top in one scene in particular. I like what that scene was trying to do, but the over-the-top acting kind of ruins it overall. The other big one that really bothered me was the whole subplot about James Nielsen and how he's got a grudge against Andre Allen, and for some reason by the third act it turns out it's actually Rosario Dawson's character Chelsea, the woman who was interviewing him. That was supposed to be the big third act breakup of the film. And it's like, really? I mean, first of all, the whole James Nielsen is actually Chelsea thing feels very weird and out of place. I mean, is the movie trying to imply that critics are just playing a character when they review their stuff? It just seems so out of place, and they don't really give much of an explanation of how this actually makes sense. I mean, I didn't get it when I first saw it. When I watched this again, I still didn't get what they were trying to do there. Here, it kind of felt like what was that movie? I just had it in my head and I completely forgot about it. No joke, I literally had it in my head while I was talking about it, and then it just completely fell out of my head. Fell out of me, so I don't remember it. I'll probably remember it well after I'm done with this movie, but yeah, those were a couple of flaws I had with the movie, but I still really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I think it is still one of the smartest and funniest comedies I've seen in years. Chris Rock gets a chance to show his range as not just a great comedic actor, but also a great dramatic actor, and he does play it very well here. The actors overall are really good, the comedy is really good, the story runs fluently, the pacing is very good. It's definitely a movie that is one of the best movies of the year, easily, and one that should be recommended to be checked out. If you haven't seen Top 5, see it. It's definitely worth it.
I come from Earth, a planet of outlaws. My name is Peter Quill. There's one other name you might know me by. Star-Lord. Who? Well, Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw. Guys, forget it. So here we are. A thief, two thugs, an assassin, and a maniac. But we're not going to stand by as evil wipes out the galaxy. I guess we're stuck together. partners.
Are you telling me the fate of 12 billion people is in the hands of these criminals?
Oh, yeah. I look around, you know what I see? Losers. But life's giving us a chance. To do what? Something good? Something bad? Bit of both.
Oh, what the hell? I don't got that long a lifespan anyway.
Well, John C. Reilly was right about one thing. It wasn't a good idea. It was a great idea. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the first two movies of August 2014 on the first day of August 2014. And first one is definitely one of, if not the greatest movies of the... Not only one of the great movies of the year, one of the great movies of the decade, one of the great comic book movies of all time, and that is, of course, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy from director James Gunn. And, yeah, I don't think I need to say anything more about how great this movie is, but we gotta fill some time here. So, after stealing a mysterious orb in the far reaches of outer space, human Peter Quill, played by Chris Pratt, is now the main target of a manhunt led by the villain known as Ronan the Accuser, played by Lee Pace. To help fight Ronan and his team, including Gamora, played by Zoe Saldana, Drax the Destroyer, Dave Bautista, Groot, voiced by Vin Diesel, and Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper, and save the galaxy from his power, Quill creates a team known as the Guardians of the Galaxy to save the world. And I was afraid that the movie was going to be really hard to sell to people. I mean, Marvel, they had a really big, tall task to sell this movie to people. I mean, you got a movie where you have two of your lead characters. One is a talking tree that literally has only three words as his lines overall, and a talking raccoon. It's going to be hard to sell to people. I mean, this is the same company that over 20 years ago had a hard time, 20 years up to that point. Actually, technically, it would have been nearly 30 years, because Howard the Duck came out in 1986. They couldn't sell Howard the Duck back then, but considering how Marvel has definitely found a better way of selling their movies to people ever since Iron Man came out in 2008, needless to say, yeah, I think they definitely succeeded in selling this to people, and yeah, this thing was a great, great movie, man. I mean, after all the game-changing elements and high-stakes drama that was in Captain America the Winter Soldier, it's good that we got something more lighthearted and funnier and more heartfelt. Even if there are some pretty good emotional moments in this movie, too. Like in the beginning when you have this young Peter Quill seeing his mother dying in a hospital and he runs away. And then he gets immediately abducted by aliens right from the start. It's just kind of like, talk about a way to start a movie. Like, the movie does properly lighten up and become such a good time after that. I mean, Chris Pratt in this movie, I mean, say what you will about him nowadays, but keep in mind that when this movie was coming out, nobody was really expecting Chris Pratt to become this reliable action movie draw that he has since become since then. I mean, you know, this was the guy that, as the decade began, was nothing more than Aubrey Plaza and then Rashida Jones's boyfriend on Parks and Recreation, you know, the goofy funny guy. You know, he took the Bruce Willis route. You know, Bruce Willis started his career off making smaller appearances in smaller movies, and mostly became known for his comedic works. And then all of a sudden, Bruce Willis takes a movie like a Die Hard, and then all of a sudden becomes this top action movie draw. This movie kind of pushed Chris Pratt to that next level, and it turned out to work very well for him. In a very good year that also included the Lego Movie, and then the following year he's going to have Jurassic World. I mean, he proves his star power potential by knocking it out of the park as Star-Lord. He is so much fun in this. And yeah, the other members are great too. I like the fact that they work off each other very well. Zoe Saldana is really good as Gamora. You know, she's a great badass character, and you do like her despite the fact that she is one of the daughters of the main villain of the movie that's going to be coming up in the future. I wouldn't even say the daughter, like she was the caretaker of the, the big baddie for the MCU coming up later down the road. As we get our first full look at Thanos, played by Josh Brolin in this movie. But you also have, Dave Bautista, who is such a fun, over-the-top character as Drax that is very funny, but he can also take himself extremely too seriously because he has this deep backstory, but he's also not afraid to get a couple of good one-liners out of there, and especially in the later films, we'll definitely make more fun of that. I made fun of I talked about the fact that, one of your two main characters is a talking tree that only has 3 words, but I'll tell you what, Vin Diesel as Groot, I don't know why it works so well for him to just go back and do smaller lines like that. It was like that with the Iron Giant too, but just like the Iron Giant, Vin Diesel as Groot is surprisingly really, really charming, and you do get a good sense of, what this character is going through by just these 3 words in general here. And it just surprisingly works really well here. And, Bradley Cooper is also a lot of fun as Rocket Raccoon. He's a badass, and he creates this very funny, unique character that I nearly thought was unrecognizable when I first saw it. Like, the first time I heard that voice, my first thought was, Bradley Cooper, this guy sounds like Mr. Green from Hey Arnold. Like, if you've ever seen Hey Arnold, and you see Arnold's, Arnold's neighbor, who's like the butcher, Mr. Green, like, I swear, his voice literally sounds like Mr. Green from Hey Arnold. That's how much it literally feels like that. But they were the highlights of the movie. They were so well done. And, Michael Rooker as Yondu is also really good, too. Almost every line that comes out of Rooker is brilliant in here. It's just the way that he plays this character. It's like he is channeling his character from The Walking Dead, Merle Dixon, into this role, and making him seem like the space version of this character. And of course, in the next movie, there's going to be a lot more to him in the storyline, and it actually gives him more of an in-depth story to tell in the later film that works very well. The villains are your typical generic comic book style villains with no real motivations except they want the world domination. We're basically going back to Thor the Dark World style villains here. They just want world domination, and that's it, rather than the Winter Soldier type that has more, they want more than world domination. And Lee Pace, he's fine in here, but he's trying a little too hard to be evil and just comes off as extremely goofy and lame, even though I will say this. Towards the end of the movie, where he has to continue playing this character that's supposed to be serious and all of that against Chris Pratt, who's being extremely goofy during this dance sequence that they're doing, and he's going like, "What in God's name are you doing?" And Chris Pratt's just like, "I'm distracting you, turd blossom." Like, that was good. That's funny stuff right there. Karen Gillan as Nebula is a much more dangerous threat in this movie than the main villain is, and she turns out to be one of the good guys later on in the series. That's just the power of how great Karen Gillan is as an actress overall. Again, somebody else is having a really good year in 2014 with this and Oculus, and she's even on a show that was criticized when it was coming out called Selfie, but then all of a sudden when you watch it, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's actually much better than you would give it credit for. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed that show after it came off the air. And again, Josh Brolin shows up very few times in this movie as Thanos, and at the time, it didn't really feel like they were doing anything except just, building up the fact that this is going to be the new baddie for the MCU. But of course, we now know that Thanos is actually pretty damn good, and the fact that they kept building him slowly but surely, it works so well. It works so well for what we'd eventually get in Infinity War and Endgame. I felt like Benicio del Toro's The Collector was kind of wasted in this movie. He only gets 2 scenes in the movie. There's one scene in the middle, and then there's the end credits scene, which is basically a tease to say that, hey, Howard the Duck also exists in this universe. And by the way, Seth Green is Howard the Duck. Like, how come Marvel has not done anything with that character? Like, you could do a Howard the Duck movie now, and I think people will more than be willing to buy that movie in general here. He's really not given a whole lot to do, Benicio del Toro is, and you think they'd give him more considering that how they teased him at the end of Thor the Dark World. It's just kind of like, what was the point of doing that all then? It's just like, this isn't like what the MCU is doing now, like teasing all this stuff that eventually would never come. This was supposed to be the big thing that we're supposed to be building up to, and it's just that, yeah, it just doesn't come out all the way that I think they wanted it to come out. The rest of the cast overall is pretty good. Glenn Close, Djimon Hounsou, John C. Reilly, just to name a few. They're just kind of there in smaller parts in general. In fact, honestly, John C. Reilly probably is the one that has more to do in this film besides the Guardians overall. And, his performances overall was pretty good. The look and feel of the film is nicely done, too. You got a lot of great visual wonder to look at, and it doesn't feel overblown or pointless to the story. It feels like everything is happening for a reason. The story does a good job acknowledging the flaws that it has and has fun with itself. I mean, all the way down to the 70s and 80s music splattered throughout the film, which you would think would have nothing to do with the story, but it honestly plays a lot more than you would think, as we'll see, again, in the films to come. These songs do play a bigger role in this series than we could possibly expect it to be. Like, really, this movie could have been an all-out disaster in the wrong hands, but because James Gunn knows what he's doing, it's a story that doesn't want to take itself too seriously, and you have a good cast to make it happen. It's a good old-fashioned fun time at the movies that marks another winner for Marvel, who very rarely was putting out bad stuff at this point going forward. I mean, the worst thing they had done at this point was Thor: The Dark World, and even then, there's still stuff about it that I still enjoy. Like, this movie, like, it's a movie that had its trepidations going into it, but thanks to people who knew exactly what kind of a movie they wanted to do, it succeeds and becomes one of the more enjoyable movie-going experiences that you'll ever have. I mean, it's definitely the beginning of one of the greatest trilogies overall in the MCU, because all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are top-notch good, and it's just, I can't recommend this puppy enough, man. Guardians of the Galaxy is just such a fun movie. I enjoy the hell out of it. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. Excellent film.
Tell me about the shooter.
He's strong. He's fast. Had a rough arm.
When do we start?
We just did.
People are gonna die. You can't let that happen.
Oh, how we didn't know when we saw those first trailers of what this movie was going to be, and how it radically changed the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we knew it at that point. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We are doing this weekend for April 4th, 2014. We got 4 films to look at. And no real intro, because honestly, there's really one of the 4 big new releases that's definitely worth talking about. So, might as well just go ahead and don't waste our time with an intro this time around, and just get right to it. And that is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And the funny thing about this movie in particular is that we really had no idea what kind of a film this was going to be. We were just expecting it to be a sequel to a really good Captain America movie that was a fun period superhero movie. And with Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World being somewhat of a disappointment, they had a lot riding on this movie. And needless to say, it paid off in a big way. And we're going to delve into that as we go along here. But in this movie, Steve Rogers, once again played by Chris Evans, struggles to embrace his role in the modern world, and with the help of Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, and a pararescueman, Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie, they battle a new threat from old history, the Soviet agent known as the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian Stan. Of course, was in the first movie, and of course, he is Steve Rogers' brother. I think it was brother. He was his childhood best friend. I should know that, but yeah, he was his childhood best friend. But yeah, like I said, I really like the first Captain America movie. It's a fun, action-packed homage to the pulp action films of the 40s, and a surprisingly strong period piece superhero movie from a director like Joe Johnston, who not but 20 years prior to that, did The Rocketeer, which was another fun period piece movie made in modern times with a nice homage to the pulp action films of the time period. But yeah, this movie takes a radically different approach to that. This one is not, I'm not exaggerating when I say that this movie is much darker and much more intense than the last movie, and it's friggin' amazing. They have basically taken this Captain America franchise from a pulpy superhero movie from the 1940s and turned it into a political thriller in the best kind of way. I mean, this may have topped the Avengers as the best movie they had made at that point. And yeah, it was one of those movies where it's just like, yeah, it's that good of a movie. I mean, this is just a damn good movie. And it does surprise me in just, of how great it is, because it's a movie that takes you by surprise. You think you're going into the movie expecting, another Captain America movie, maybe on the level of the first film, but like I said, this is a political thriller on the levels of the Jason Bourne films, the Harrison Ford, Jack Ryan movies. In fact, you could pretty much say that Captain America is Marvel's equivalent to Jason Bourne. I mean, that's what I thought of when I first saw this film. The cast overall is great in here. Chris Evans, once again, really coming into his own as Cap. Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, and really showing a good chemistry with them. Johansson kicking a lot of ass in this, as Cap does. Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury is given a lot more to do in this, and actually plays a much bigger part in the story than the trailers kind of let on. Kobe Smulders, Maria Hill, is also given more to do in this, especially since she's in the second half of the film she's in, especially in the second half of the film that she's given in the Avengers. Anthony Mackie's a good addition to this, and of course he would later go on to eventually succeed Steve Rogers as Captain America, and then even get his own movie in Brave New World, which was definitely a movie that was trying to mimic this film in general, and when it did that, it worked, but when it was a MCU movie, it kind of falls apart. I still really enjoy that movie overall. I think it's the black sheep of the Captain America films, but it's still a good movie overall. I don't think people give it too much of a bad rap overall. Robert Redford, we just lost him in the last year, not even that, about a couple months ago. A great movie, a great performance of him in this movie, playing the main villain of this. I mean, this is his first big major theatrical release he had done at that point. I know All Is Lost came out just a few months before this, but it wasn't technically a wide release, and most people didn't even know it was even coming out. But in here, he plays the villain role to a T here. He is excellent in this movie. And, I mean, this was one of his last big movies he did before he passed away, and he just knocks it out of the park, man, in this movie. Sebastian Stan is very good in this too. They even threw in Haley Atwell for a nice little cameo, showing up as the older Peggy. The makeup job overall is pretty good, and I like that they still have chemistry even after all these years, especially since these two are much different ages, considering the circumstances. Frank Grillo's pretty good in here, as well as Emily Van Camp, who was on Revenge at this time. The action is nicely handled, with a nice mixture of CG visuals and practical visuals during the car chases, like something out of the Bourne movies, or even something like the older action films of the 70s and 80s. And then, the story comes into play here, and let me tell you, this story just goes way more than you could have possibly imagined going into this movie. The story for this may look as simple as sugar, but there's definitely a lot more going into this that the trailers were not telling you. We find out, first of all, that S.H.I.E.L.D. got compromised. We find out that Nick Fury pulls an Agent Coulson and fakes his own death. We find out that Armin Zola's brain was absorbed into a computer in 1972, and it's revealed that Hydra, the terrorist organization from the first Captain America movie, had been secretly operating their ranks in S.H.I.E.L.D., souring chaos across the world in the hope that humanity would willingly surrender its freedom for its exchange for safety. And because of this, S.H.I.E.L.D. needed to be disbanded after the final action sequence in this movie. I mean, damn. I mean, talk about a game changer for the MCU, because Lord knows what the people from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thought about this when they saw this film. In fact, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. took full advantage to help boost that series to new creative levels because of what they did in this movie. And the twists in this movie make more sense and are not just thrown in there to be just like like an Iron Man 3, where the biggest problem was not the twist. It was the fact that they had Iron Man basically going up against Sheldon Cooper with superpowers. I mean, Guy Pearce was pretty much playing Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory, and that third act of the film ruined the film overall. But here, all the twists make sense here. They make sense to the story, the events of the first film. Some of the lines from the first film actually do make a lot more sense in this, such as the line from the first one where Cap takes down the guy who shot down Dr. Erskine, and it says, "Cut off one head, two more shall take its place." And lo and behold, that comes definitely into play in this movie. And I also like the fact that Captain America has to question his beliefs in the modern age, knowing that the way he used to do things in the early days doesn't work in this day and age. And by the end of the film, he just becomes the ultimate badass and more than enough to lead a team, much like how he did in the Avengers in the final battle. In fact, this movie, I think, did a better job of taking an American icon and having him question his values way better than Man of Steel did with Superman. And I don't think that's I don't think people can even look at that and disagree with me on that front. I mean, like I said, it's hard for me to choose between which one I like better, the original Avengers or Captain America the Winter Soldier. It was that close, but this is definitely very high up for the Marvel Cinematic Universe for me. This is such a great film. It does everything right. There's hardly anything I can say about it that's bad. It's a perfect film that goes one step beyond to take this character from the 40s era pulp superhero he was in the first film and just turn him into the ultimate badass on the level of James Bond, Bourne, and Jack Ryan. It's a great movie with great characters, great action, great story. It's just a freaking fantastic movie, man. One of Marvel's greatest movies they had ever made, and a nice return to form, because after this, they went on a roll with some pretty good movies overall, and we're going to get another great film from them later on this year in the summertime. But, yeah, Captain America the Winter Soldier is pretty fucking badass, and I highly recommend it.
We've been through hell together. We spent 4 years. 4 years! Fighting that virus, and then another 4 fighting each other. It was chaos. And I want you to know, it's not just about power, it's about giving us the hope to rebuild and reclaim the world we lost.
And that cameraman was never seen again. I'm actually kind of surprised they got that footage. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the two films of July 11th, 2014. And boy, do we have two really good ones. And I'm not kidding around. This was probably the best overall weekend for new movies in 2014. And how can you go wrong with our first movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the sequel to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, this time bringing in director Matt Reeves, who had just come off of Cloverfield, and the very underrated Let Me In. And essentially, this movie kind of established him as kind of the next big, the next reliable big blockbuster guy, because after this, I mean, he had winner after winner after winner. Well, technically two winners, but we'll touch on those later on down the road. But let's talk about this movie here. This is, of course, following up the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. We have a growing nation of genetically evolved apes led by Caesar, voiced in mocap by Andy Serkis, who's threatened by a band of human survivors led by Jason Clarke and Kerry Russell of the devastating virus unleashed a decade ago. They reach a fragile peace, but it proves short-lived as both sides are brought to the brink of a war that will determine who will emerge as Earth's dominant species. And like I said, man, not only did this movie manage to be as great as the previous film, but I actually think it outdid a lot of my expectations when I first saw it, because, yeah, this is a really fucking good movie, man. I mean, there's just so much to love and appreciate about this movie. It's amazing that they were able to make it work as well as it did, making it more awesome and more epic than the first film did. But, first up, the scenes where it's just the apes themselves are so good, and they talk through sign language, and it's so impressively handled. The majority of it is done, of the first 15 minutes, has no dialogue in it. And I love a movie that has the balls and the brass ones to go in there and say, hey, we're brave enough to have scenes like this where we're not going to have anybody talking for a few minutes. Like, especially for a big summer action film like this, which is going to be seen by a lot of people. And for it to work as well as it does, I mean, you can't really say anything more about how great that is to see that. Secondly, the visual effects are amazing. The apes, I think, are much better handled in here. There are much less flaws in the visual department than there were in the first film. And Andy Serkis, man, I mean, I did touch on it in my original review, but ever since this movie, man, we have come to realize that Andy Serkis is a god when it comes to playing motion capture characters. I mean, this is the guy that played Gollum. He played King Kong in Peter Jackson's movie. And Caesar, I think, is his magnum opus. This is one of the best characters ever put to film. I mean, it's not just because of the performance by Andy Serkis, but not just the mocap work, but you feel this guy's whole situation overall. You do feel this ape's character going through the course of this movie, and it's just one of the more fascinating and amazing characters that really you just gotta see to believe it, man. I mean, there's no reason why this character should have not been acknowledged at the Oscars. I mean, back in the 80s, if this movie had come out in the 1980s, this would have gotten like a special achievement Oscar, just like with Roger Rabbit in 88 and then Toy Story in 95, and sadly we don't do that anymore. Like, because even though the technology has vastly evolved since those films came out, like, this should have gotten a special Oscar at the very least, or at least a Best Actor nomination for the Academy to realize that, hey, we acknowledge how great this performance is, but keep in mind, this is pre-2021 Oscars, where, you know, they didn't really give a shit about good movies. They wanted to nominate all the Oscar bait movies and all that type of stuff, like, excuse me, sorry. But, the two main characters overall, I thought were very good. Jason Clarke as Malcolm and Kerry Russell as Ellie. They're good characters. They did contribute to the story and weren't just there to be the typical stereotype characters. They saved those for some of the characters other in this movie, but we'll get to them later on. But, the action sequences I thought very good. I thought this was very well handled by Matt Reeves and cinematographer Michael Searson, who has done a lot of cinematography and a lot of good cinematography. He did Gravity. He did Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Hell, he's been working on movies since the late 70s. I mean, he did stuff like Bugsy Malone, and that movie was amazing for making a big-scale movie with these kid actors. I mean, I just watched it. I've had that movie for several years on Blu-ray, and I finally got to watch it not too long ago. It's a friggin' amazing movie, man. Bugsy Malone is a very underrated film on so many levels. If you have not seen that movie, definitely check it out. It's definitely worth it just for the visual look of that film alone. He worked on that movie, and I thought both of them did a very good job, director and cinematography, making this look as much as flawless and as epic as you could possibly imagine. And it does run at a smooth enough pace. The pacing is very good here. The great story that expands on the universe since the events of the first film is well done. Nothing about it feels forced or just thrown in there. And just because everything that happens works and happens for a reason and purpose to the story itself. Now there are some flaws to it. Of course, you got to have your flaws in here. Even some of the best movies ever have some bad flaws to it. But like, the other human characters are not really all that great. Not just the humans, I should say, but the apes as well. They're kind of your generic stereotype characters. Gary Oldman's playing the leader who doesn't want to listen to reason. One of Malcolm's helpers is a trigger-happy nut who just wants to kill apes with no rational thinking at all. Which is funny because of what's going on in the world right now. You say, oh, that's pretty much like what's going on in our government right now. But that's a whole other thing altogether. Like, Caesar's son is seduced into the dark side by Koba, basically kind of the tyrannical ape who wants all apes to bow to him and humans destroyed, before turning back once Caesar ends up surviving an event in the film. It's just kind of like, are we really doing this again? Like, we know what this is going to do, how it's going to happen overall here, but there's also plot points that never got brought out here whatsoever. They say they only have fuel for a few more weeks. Then they use it as gas for the cars they drive up to where the apes are at, because that's where the dam with the power is that they're looking for. Couldn't you just use the fuel on a plane and just fly to the dam itself? I mean, it's really not that hard to do. I mean, they never explain in the film that why it can be done, and if they do so, it's just like it's likely the apes will destroy the plane. So really, why not just do that? I mean, it's worth trying it at least once, for God's sakes. I mean, what are you trying to accomplish here by not doing that? But it's also very predictable too. You can kind of predict where everything is going to go, but never to a point where the movie where it ruins the film overall. You can have a predictable story as long as you do something unique with it and still expand on your story and it's set up fine. It works well. Like if you do what you did with the Transformers movie that came out the week before, yeah, people are going to get sick and tired of it really fucking quickly. Like, if Transformers 4 is the worst kind of a summer blockbuster, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is the complete opposite of that. It's a fresh, well-written movie, beautifully acted, beautifully directed. The story works, a lot of fun to watch. One of the best sequels I've ever seen in my life, and it just continues to show how good of a summer this was, because this was a really good summer for movies in general. And I think I had this high up on my list of the best movie years of all time, if I'm not mistaken, not too long ago. It was in my top 5. It was like, I think, number 4 on the list I had there. But, yeah, this was one of the best movie years of recent memory. And this is one of those examples of where, yeah, that comes into play of why this was such a good year for movies in general. So, yeah, if you haven't seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes yet, for God's sakes, get out there and see not only this movie, but watch all these movies that came after 2011. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War of the Planet of the Apes, even the recently released, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I forgot the title for a second. Even that one's pretty good, even though it is kind of an unnecessary sequel, but it's still a really damn good movie overall. A lot of them are really good films. Like, I can't recommend these movies enough overall. Just enjoy them, watch them. You'll have a great time with them just like I did. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, one of the best movies of the year, one of the best sequels I've ever seen. So, and let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Richard Linklater's epic masterpiece of a different kind, and that is Boyhood.
In 2002, director Richard Linklater cast a 6-year-old boy. Over the next 12 years, they made movie history.
You guys ready to have some fun?
Now, discover what the New York Times calls one of the most extraordinary films of the 21st century. Boyhood touches something deep and true. There has never been anything like this film.
Who do you want to be, Mason? What do you want to do?
Boyhood, rated R. In select theaters July 11th.
So yeah, this is a movie that has a very special gimmick to it. What they did was, they started shooting this movie back in 2002. And Richard Linklater's plan essentially was to have the cast come back every year and film a new segment over the course of 12 years. That was the original plan overall, but I think it was 11 years since this came out since they finished filming around 2013. But either way, this is still an amazing idea to work with here, to have a movie that's you're following as these characters are growing older, not just the kids, but the adults as well. And that was kind of the fun thing about this gimmick overall, but it turned out to be one of those great movie achievements that you really like, honestly, you really couldn't have seen coming if you really didn't try, if you really didn't see what they were doing here. But yeah, this is a terrific, terrific movie, man. Boyhood tells the story, essentially, of, this family, Ella Coltrane, who plays one of the kids, Ethan Hawke, Patricia Arquette, and Richard Linklater's daughter, Laura Linklater, and the rest of the cast of the crew, showing the growth of a young boy and his older sister to adulthood. It goes from May 2002 to October 2013, and this whole thing is still amazing how they put this together. This thing didn't even have a finished script when they started shooting this, and Linklater basically had to prepare each character's basic plot points, and the ending wasn't written until the last year of the shooting of this movie, and it's very fascinating how they were able to put this whole thing together, and it turned out to be the masterpiece that it really is, because this really is a masterpiece of a movie. It's one of the great movie experiences you can really see. It's amazing to see how this film started off. It's just kind of this improvisational film. Let's see how this starts off here. If it doesn't work, we just go on and do something else. And it slowly but surely becomes this smartly written, very cleverly made motion picture experience that, honestly, we might not ever see again. Although Richard Linklater is doing another film, if I'm not mistaken, with the same kind of idea. It's actually being filmed as we speak right now. Merrily We Roll Along is supposedly his next one. And supposedly it's not going to get done until 2040, so by the time it comes out, I'll be in my 50s at that point. I mean, good Lord, I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 years old by this time it comes out. God, I'm getting old. I just turned 37 3 weeks ago. What the fuck? But that's for another time. But yeah, it's incredible that he's going to try to do this again because, yeah, this thing could not have been the hardest, could not have been the easiest thing to do overall. And what makes it so unique is that you have somebody like Richard Linklater who is so good at making these mainstream movies, but he can also make these smaller independent movies that still hold up very much. I mean, the guy does not miss at all. I mean, this started shooting before School of Rock came out, and by the end, he'd already established himself as a solid director. The Bad News Bears remake he did was very good. A Scanner Darkly, Me and Orson Welles was an underrated gem of his. So was Bernie. Even Fast Food Nation wasn't a great movie, but it certainly wasn't a bad movie overall. This movie works because the acting feels very real and genuine. It does a spectacular job with its cast and how everybody gets older and how everybody works together, even as time goes on in general here. The drama is really good. It doesn't feel fake or phoned in. If Linklater really would have wanted to, he could have continued. He could have made this the Up series for this generation in particular. And if you've never seen the Up movies, it's this fascinating documentary series where, Michael Apted follows these 7 kids early on, I think in the 60s, and he comes back and sees them every 7 years to see how they're doing. So the next one would be 7 Up. The first one would be 7 Up, and the next one would be 14 Up, and then 21 Up, 28, 35, so on and so forth. And I think they're still doing them even after he died not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check on that, but I think that Richard Linklater could do the same thing here, where you have the actors coming back every few years, and we can have more to these characters' lives in general. That is assuming that Linklater would want to do this, but, if anything, maybe one and done probably is enough overall, and even if this next one he does is really good, turns out to be pretty good, I mean, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as good as this film right here, because this one is a masterpiece of a film, man. This really should have been a movie where it probably had a good chance of winning Best Picture, and if it had won, I would have not minded at all. Although the film that did win Best Picture that year was pretty good, but we'll get into that later on in the year. But I got nothing else to say for you, man. Boyhood is just such a phenomenal movie. It's a cinematic achievement that it's going to be very hard to top. And I mean, what more can I say about it, man? It's a great film. If you have not seen it yet, get out there and see Boyhood, man. It's a terrific achievement. Just the way it's filmed, just the way these actors work off each other, just the way the stories are being told. It's a terrific film. I can't recommend this one enough. Boyhood, one of the best movies of the year, easily. Easily.
That's why we ship out to the beach tomorrow, Major.
General, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to decline.
It's not an offer, it's an order.
What day is it?
For you, Judgment Day.
30 seconds to draw!
How do I turn the safety off of my weapon?
Come find me when you wake up.
What? You do know what's happening to me.
We are fighting an enemy. They have the power to reset the day, and now so do you.
I'm not a soldier.
I'll train you.
You already have.
Every time you die, you get smarter. You have to finish this.
Edge of Tomorrow, rated PG-13. Experience it in IMAX 3D.
So let's start off talking about this movie by talking about the marketing controversy for this, because this was originally based on a novel called All You Need Is Kill. And then they made the movie with that, and then after the filming ended, Warner Brothers changed the title to Edge of Tomorrow because the president of Warner Brothers at the time said the title was changed partly due to negative chatter about the word kill in the title. And Doug Liman basically changed it because it didn't feel like it was the tone of the movie he had just made, and wanted to rename it Live, Die, and Repeat, but they just used that as a tagline. And even the producer, Erwin Stoff, said, "I think the word kill in a title is very tricky in today's world. I don't know that people want to be bombarded with that word. I don't know that people want to be opening the newspaper and seeing that word. We've seen enough in kind of real newspaper headlines, and I don't think we need to see it when we're looking at a movie." The word kill in a title is very tricky in today's world. Okay. Kill Bill, Killing Eve, A Time to Kill, They Will Kill You, How to Make a Killing, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Killing, Why Women Kill, To Kill a Mockingbird, Boy Kills World, Generation Kill, Fuck, Marry, Kill, Killing Faith, 30 Days to Kill, Sim City, A Dame to Kill For, Dress to Kill, The Killing Fields, License to Kill, A View to a Kill, Kill Your Darlings, Righteous Kill. Have you gotten the point yet? I think we are more than okay with the word kill in a title for a movie. That is one of the stupidest arguments I have ever heard in my life. And I just listened to, the whole thing with the Buffalo Bills and Terry Pagula trying to defend Brandon Beane's decision-making by making up straight-up lies of the fact that Keon Coleman was not a choice by him, even though there's literal footage out there of that. That's for another video, though. If you want to go check that out, check it over on the Reviewing Network Live for that one. But the bottom line here is that they really fucked up the marketing for this movie to the point where when this movie came out on Blu-ray, they decided to rename it Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. And then when it got released in 4K a few years later, went back to Edge of Tomorrow. They butchered this movie's title so badly that the box office for this movie was one of the biggest. Unfortunately, a big failure overall, and it brought in about 300. It brought back, once worldwide numbers were brought back into it, $370 million, over $178 million budget. So it did make its budget back overall afterwards, and surely with the success that it had on home media afterward, it made its money back in general. But the whole controversy about the title was just really fucking stupid, man. Especially for a movie that is not only one of my favorite movies of the year, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. So in it, an alien race has hit the Earth in an unrelenting assault unbeatable by any military unit in the world. Major William Cage, played by Tom Cruise, is an officer who has never seen a day of combat when he is unceremoniously dropped into what amounts to a suicide mission. Killed within minutes, Cage now finds himself inexplicably thrown into a time loop, forcing him to live out the same brutal combat over and over, fighting and dying again and again. But with each battle, Cage becomes able to engage the adversaries with increasing skills, alongside Special Forces warrior Rita Butowski, played by Emily Blunt. And as Cage and Butowski take the fight to the aliens, each repeated encounter gets them one step closer to defeating the enemy. So, like I said, this is based off of a Japanese graphic novel called All You Need Is Kill, and it's directed by Doug Liman, who at this point had not made a real bad movie in his career. I mean, Jumper was probably his worst film, but even then, it wasn't a bad movie overall. It was it was just a film that was just kind of had a good idea, but the execution just didn't work overall. But I mean, this was an incredible fun movie. I remember seeing this for the first time and thinking to myself, this is one of the most fun experiences I've had in a movie in a long, long time. I really dug the hell out of this movie. It got everything going for it, and it takes every opportunity to give us really good entertainment value. And Tom Cruise gives a really solid performance in this movie. This is not only just Cruise's great action style of acting, but he allows himself for great comedic moments as well, which we'll touch on that in a second. And I loved Emily Blunt as Rita Butowski. I mean, she's a badass character that also looks sexy as hell. I mean, that scene where where she's doing I think she was doing push-ups, and then she slowly but surely gets up with the arch and all that. I mean, that's a scene that's just etched in my memory banks since I've seen it. And I think it's etched in a lot of memory banks to a lot of people when they saw that film. But The script does a very good job of giving her a lot of good character development and also making the character her own character. She isn't the stereotypical action heroine. They actually give her a lot of development to make her probably my favorite female character since Katniss in the Hunger Games movies. I mean, that's how good she really is. She's up there with some of the best female characters ever put on the screen, right up there with Ripley from Aliens and so many other ones I can mention. The supporting cast is good too, but they're not really given a whole lot to do. Like, Brendan Gleeson is the corrupt general who clearly doesn't like Tom Cruise because he's a journalist who completely badmouths him. It's just like, okay, bitch, you're going out there to die. And it's just like, Bill Paxton is the asshole drill sergeant. But at least he is funny and is funny enough to get a lot of good moments in here. The action scenes in this are shot spectacularly. You can see everything that's going on, even if the scenes are shot in the dark, especially that last action scene with the helicopter. I always go back to the climax of Patriot Games that takes place in the storm, and it's nighttime, and you see rain and thunder and lightning going on, and you can still see what's going on. It's one of the best action sequences I've ever seen, and you can definitely see a lot of that in this movie. I love how they shot it. They did a great job shooting that scene. The alien creatures look good, too. I mean, they gave us a cool-looking creature designs for these mimics that we hadn't seen done before, especially with the way they move around in the film. I thought that was intensely entertaining to see. And like I said, it manages to find a way to mix in not just action and drama, but some pretty dark comedic elements to it. I mean, literally, the first half of the movie is an action comedy for the most part, with the consistent ways that Cruise keeps dying in the beginning. I mean, it's like if they took that scene from Groundhog Day where Phil Connors is killing himself because he just wants out of this and basically taking it to the next level and beyond. And like, the Groundhog Day was played straight for seriousness. This is played up for laughs, and it's legitimately funny as hell to watch. And then, as the second half of the film comes along and becomes more and more serious, it's very smart in turning the tide and making this serious as it needs to be, as there is a big tonal shift that's necessary when this power that Tom Cruise has given is taken away from him. So the next time he dies, that's it. He's gonna die, period, after this. And it works to give what the film is trying to give us here. A nice little twist of faith overall. And like I said, it's very much like Groundhog Day, where Tom Cruise starts falling into what Bill Murray did in Groundhog Day. He starts off wondering what the hell's going on, repeating the same day again. The next day, he's repeating the day that he repeats the day that he's frantic and wants to get this over with. Everyone around him looks at him like he's crazy, and the next couple of days are comedic. A few more days out, the tone switches to a more dramatic tone. And then the last days, he realizes everything he needs to do right to get things back to some normalcy. Now, there was a little bit of a controversy about the ending of the movie and how some of it saw it as a cop-out, and I'll just say this. If you don't know what happened, the film ends with Rita and Cage crashing into the Louvre, with Rita being killed by an Alpha and Cage swimming downwards to win the day by dropping grenades into the Omega. When the Omega is killed, all the other mimics perish around with it. However, underneath the water, some tentacle alien blood reaches up and latches onto Cage, and we see him reanimate for an instant before all of a sudden he wakes up in the past again, only this time it's even further back than he's used to. However, he's not just reset the day to an earlier point in time, but an earlier point in time in which the mimics are still dead. Cage finds Rita and the two meet perhaps for the first time, and the film cuts to the credits. Now, around the time David Chan at SlashFilm.com thought what they did made the wet ending worse, saying that it didn't make any sense, took away all the stakes that the film had, and struck the wrong tone. I mean, I could see people buying into that, but I like the way they handled it, and I say that for a couple of reasons. One, it does make sense, sort of. Cruise has to go into the water to destroy the Omega, and as the film had established in the beginning, if you get alien blood on you, you instantly have this power to repeat the day. It does make sense because that's what the film establishes early on, and that's how we've gotten to this point in the film. And as far as how when he gets the stuff on him, he's back on the helicopter from the very beginning of the film, I can see why it's not making a whole lot of sense. Two, it's not a cop-out. The film kept its own rules intact when they did with that ending. There was nothing in there that suggested that the film was copping out. I mean, you want to talk about a bad cop-out. One of my least favorite movies of all time, North, is one of the biggest cop-outs ever, if not the worst. You have this movie focusing on North wanting to divorce his parents and get new parents with all these fucked up stereotypes, and the result is nothing but a lousy dream from North, who falls asleep in the mall after talking to the Bruce Willis character. 90 minutes of my life wasted on this movie. Hell, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 is second with that badass fight scene that only ends up being a vision, meaning that everything those films building up was to nothing at all. So, yeah, don't tell me this is a cop-out ending, because there was nothing that was done differently from what the film established in the beginning and that was done for the ending. And three, and most importantly, it completely killed the idea for a sequel. It's a story that doesn't need to continue in another film. It has a definitive ending. It doesn't end on a note of sequel baiting. It ends on its own merits to the point where nothing else could happen at this point that would require a sequel to be made. And I'm glad they didn't make a sequel to this, because I feel like if they did, they would have kind of butchered it overall. But they are making a Japanese anime All You Need Is Kill movie, which should be coming out pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's coming out this month, actually. I have to check and see, but the whole bottom line is that Edge of Tomorrow is a fucking amazing movie, man. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's a great, great film with a ton of great action, great drama, great visuals, surprisingly good comedy, a good cast that works very well with the material given, and it really was an amazing feeling watching that movie for the first time. And it's just like, what a great movie, man. What a great, great film. Edge of Tomorrow, I can't recommend this puppy enough. If you haven't seen it already, see Edge of Tomorrow. But at this point, you probably should have seen it by now. But if you haven't, get your ass out there and go see Edge of Tomorrow.
I'm no different than anybody else, but I'll not be focusing on what I want.
Martin Luther King is here.
Mr. President, people are dying. They're gonna ruin me so they can ruin this movement. Eyes on the prize.
You march those people into rural Alabama, it's gonna be open season.
What happens when a man stands up, says enough is enough?
This is, of course, the story of the tumultuous 3-month period in 1965 where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., played by David Oyelowo, led a dangerous campaign to secure equal voting rights in the face of violent opposition. The epic march from Selma to Montgomery culminated in President Lyndon B. Johnson signing the Voting Rights Act of 1965, one of the most significant victories for the civil rights movement. Director Ava DuVernay's Selma tells the story of how the revered leader and visionary Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his brothers and sisters in the movement that prompted change that forever altered history. And this movie was well received when it came out. It was a highly acclaimed film, near perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, until 2 negative reviews dropped it back down because we can't have nice things in this world. I mean, this is a movie that usually would be passed over by the general public because of how overrated it could be. And I could honestly say that it's actually as good as it made it out to be. This is a movie where this is high up there with one of my favorite movies of the year. This is my second favorite film of the year, now I do remember, because the Lego Movie is at the number 1 spot. I mean, this movie, everything about it works to a T. David Oyelowo as Martin Luther King Jr. gives easily one of the best performances of the year. He not only captures the spirit and the mannerisms of Dr. King, but he creates this great performance that shows off Oyelowo's potential as a leading actor, and I thought he was absolutely terrific in this. You know, he was in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, The Help, The Last King of Scotland, The Paperboy, Lincoln, Jack Reacher, The Butler, this year's Interstellar, and A Most Violent Year. But this is the first movie that really did show off his capabilities as a leading actor, and he knocks it out of the park. Carmen Ejogo as Coretta Scott King is really good in here. Tom Wilkinson as Lyndon B. Johnson is great. Tim Roth as George Wallace. Lorraine Toussaint as Amelia Robinson. Common as James Bevel. Giovanni Ribisi, Wendell Pierce, Cuba Gooding Jr., Oprah Winfrey. And there's so many that are in this movie. Martin Sheen, Dylan Baker, Stephen Root, Niecy Nash, and Andre Holland, Keith Stanfield. Everyone plays their parts very well in this movie. I also like the fact that it wasn't just a straight-up biopic about Martin Luther King Jr., and they didn't feel the need to tell us everything that we didn't already know about him. The story and the way the film represents 1960s Alabama is really good. The shots in this movie are incredible. The best shot of the whole movie, when that second march takes place, and they're on the bridge thinking that they're going to get stopped again by the police, but then the police disperses to the side. And King gets down on his knees and prays, and everyone in the march does too. And they have this look that something is up, and he starts going back the other way. I think that shot is so great, and it manages to give us the same sense that King had, that something about this does not add up whatsoever. And it's not like they're telling you about this to your face. Like, it's a shot that has the sense and the roar in the air. Something bad is about to happen if they move forward again. And I love the fact that the film isn't stupid enough to just tell you straight out what's going on. You have to look at this and realize that, yeah, something doesn't smell right in Denmark here. Which brings me into what else I really liked about the movie, and that's the direction. Ava DuVernay proves her great ability as a director with this film, showing that she's not afraid to go for this unique directing style. And I think her direction overall was something that should have been rewarded. I mean, this movie did get a Best Picture nomination. It got a Best Original Song Oscar, but it should have gotten much more than that. She should have gotten an Oscar nomination for this, because this is really something that she really put a lot of effort into it. And sadly, she did not get the recognition she deserved for this. And, kind of like with American Sniper, there are a lot of historical inaccuracies about this, mostly about how Lyndon Johnson was portrayed. And while I'll admit that they may have made Johnson a little too harsh, my thought is that, again, most biographical dramas are mostly not accurate whatsoever. The reason why there has to be this disclaimer of this is a dramatization inspired by actual events and some things have been changed for dramatic purposes is because we know they're going to change a lot of things, and so that they can be more invested in what's going on. It helps to move the story along. I mean, Argo's ending never happened in real life, and nobody ever put it against that film because of that. So why make a big deal here about this movie? I really do think that this movie was one of the best movies of the year. Second best movie of the year. I keep saying one of. It's very high up there with the best films of the year. Casting is perfect. Story is brought well to the screen. The acting is great. The dramatic parts are great. The film is just pitch perfect. It delivers on everything it promises. It's not afraid to take chances. It's a story that I think a lot of people can get behind. And it really was a film that probably should have won Best Picture that year at the Oscars. And it really should have gotten a lot more attention than it did. I mean, this movie was so well done. It's very rare where, you have a movie that's so universally hailed, and it just works on so many, and it just works just as well as they expect it to be. I mean, this movie definitely deserves to be seen. If you have not seen Selma, definitely check out Selma. It is one of the best movies of the year. It's a film that's definitely worth checking out, and that's a perfect way to end this year of 2014 in movies.
Hello, I'm Emmett. I'm just gonna come right out. I have no idea what's going on at all.
My fellow master builders, including but not limited to Superman, Wonder Woman, The Mermaid, Green Ninja, 1980-something Space Guy, Michelangelo, and the 2002 NBA All-Stars. We have learned that Lord Business plans to end the world as we know it. There is yet one hope. The special has arisen.
I think I got it, but just in case, tell me the whole thing again. I wasn't listening. I'm freaking out!
Relax, everybody. I'm here.
Batman? Awesome! Could you make one of these in orange?
I only work in black, and sometimes very, very dark gray.
Hey, pal, I hate to tell you this, but I don't think you're supposed to be here.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to report you.
No, wait up!
And what you just saw right there was everyone that thought this movie was going to be absolutely terrible and nothing more than a cheap cash grab, and then made people realize, oh my god, this actually could be pretty amazing. And sure enough, it was that and even more than anyone could ever imagine, myself included. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films of February 7th, 2014. Let me just say right now, there was no movie that on the show that is, or even this year, that pales in comparison to this movie here. The Lego Movie is not only one of the year's biggest achievements, it's one of the greatest movies we've seen in the last 15 years. And it's hard to believe a movie with Legos in it could become the classic that it has become. And really, when you really look into it, there's more than an easy understanding of why that is. But let's dig into the plot of this film. So this is, of course, based off the Lego line of construction toys, and it follows a toy named Emmett, played by Chris Pratt, who's an ordinary Lego minifigure prophesized to save the universe from the tyrannical Lord Business, played by Will Ferrell, as he gains different allies along the way, including Wildstyle, played by Elizabeth Banks, Vitruvius, played by Morgan Freeman, Batman, played by Will Arnett, and many, many more. And really, this is one of the most perfect movies I have ever seen in my life. And, this was kind of the year for Phil Lord and Chris Miller to really branch out and show everybody that these guys are for real. I mean, yes, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was a big success back in 2019. 21 Jump Street was a big success a couple of years prior in 2012. But 2014, you not only had this movie, but you had 22 Jump Street, and it just basically showed that these guys were for real, and these guys are indeed the future of filmmaking, and it has shown that, yeah, they know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to entertain the hell out of you by taking some of the stupidest ideas ever and making it the baddest ass movie you could possibly ever see. If you want to, I don't even know if I said that the right way, but this movie is amazing. There is nothing wrong with this film whatsoever. Everything about this movie is just great. The voice casting, top-notch. Chris Pratt as Emmett, Elizabeth Banks as Wildstar, Morgan Freeman, Vitruvius, Will Arnett. I haven't even talked about Allie Brie as Unikitty, who is one of the most hilariously fun characters I have ever seen. Like, kind of a mix. Imagine if you mixed Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony and Edward from Cowboy Bebop and rolled them into one. That's Unikitty as a whole, and every time she's on screen in this movie, it is absolutely fucking hilarious. Charlie Day is also hilarious too, but it's Charlie Day. But him as Benny, you know, this is a character who cares about one thing and one thing only: spaceships! Like, every time he sees an opportunity to build a spaceship, he has to say that. And just, the dialogue that's given to him in this is just so damn funny. Hell, Nick Offerman playing Metalbeard is great. I didn't even realize that was him the first time I saw this movie. It's just like, wow, I mean, it sounds like him, but at the same time, it doesn't it feels radically different than what we're used to hearing from Nick Offerman. And, you know, Liam Neeson as good cop, bad cop is also great too. I love the way that he goes from being the tough grift bad cop to the good cop with the Scottish, with kind of a little bit of a accent to him, just like, "Hi buddy, would you like a glass of water?" And it's like, and then bad cop comes around, it's just like, too bad. This is just pushes the cop out of the way. Liam Neeson's hilarious in this movie, and Will Ferrell is just so good as Lord Business. I mean, you also have a number of different notable names in this, playing these different characters. You got Jonah Hill as Green Lantern, Channing Tatum as Superman, Kobe Smulders as Wonder Woman, Will Forte as Abraham Lincoln, Shaquille O'Neal as Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian. I mean, not just the fact that they have all these characters, but they also have characters that you don't expect to see, like Milhouse from The Simpsons is in here. Why? Because he's apparently one of the hierarchies at the building in that scene there from the trailer. But I mean, just so many different weird cameos in this, but yet it works so well. The animation is incredible, mixing both computer animation and practical stop motion animation, and even some practical animation too. It's really some of the best animation I've seen in a long time, and in 3D, it looks incredible. But where it gets really good is the third act of the movie, and if you haven't seen the movie yet, I'm going to spoil it, but you should have seen this movie by now. It's been 12 years, for God's sakes, but that moment when, you know, Emmett falls into what is supposedly the end of the world, and it basically is, you know, you find out this whole story is being taken place in the basement of a live-action boy named Finn, and his father's Lego set, the father revealing to be the man upstairs, who looks exactly like Lord Business. You know, he chastises his son for ruining the set by creating hodgepodges of different playsets, and proceeds to permanently glue his perceived perfect creations together. And, you know, this is basically leading into what's happening in the Lego world where, you know, where the whole world's going to get destroyed. And, you know, there's this big action sequence overall. And you think it's going to go down the typical kids movie route. But then it takes a radical turn overall. And what it really does at the end of this really is amazing. Like, realizing the danger that his friends are at, Emmett's willing to have himself to move and gain Finn's attention and returning him to the piece of resistance to the set. And Emmett now possesses the power of a master builder, confronts business, and, you know, while this is all going on, Finn's father looks at his son's creation and realizes that Finn has based the villainous business on himself. And through a speech that Emmett gives business, Finn basically tells his father that he is special and has the power to change everything. And so Finn kind of reconciles with his son, and, you know, it plays out very, very well. Business has a change of heart. You know, Emmett basically tells him, you don't have to be the bad guy, and essentially it kind of is the thing that saves the movie in general, and this is what makes this movie go from great to perfect. It's very reminiscent of another movie produced by Warner Brothers and Animal Logic, who's one of the main animation companies on this, Happy Feet. You know, Happy Feet starts off with this silly little movie about penguins dancing around, but then you get to the third act, and Mumbo finds the mystic beings he's been looking for, and it gets put into a penguin exhibit, and basically, he starts to succumb to madness until this little girl manages to connect with him and thus leads him back home to prompt worldwide debate on overfishing. Like, that scene in Happy Feet is very similar to what happens here. They seem out of place, but they teach you lessons about life in general. In Happy Feet, it was about overfishing in Antarctica, but in here, it's about not forcing creativity out by separating everything, and also appreciating the creative things that you can see from Legos while in the real world. The dad appreciates such creativity and decides to stop gluing them all together. This movie is such a great love letter to the Lego name, and it's just not only that, it's just really good. It's very funny, it's clever, the animation is beautiful to look at, the voice casting is great, it has one of the best twists ever because it pays off nicely. Like, Phil Lord and Chris Miller really are one of the best directing duos we have working right now. I mean, they have made one good movie after another, and they show that they care about the projects they work on. They realize that there's something great that can be done with it, it's worth making a movie out of. Case in point, what they've done with the Spider-Man films, too. I mean, this not only was my favorite film of 2014, not only was it one of the best animated movies I've ever seen, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It had just been knocked out by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as my 30th favorite movie of all time. That's how much I love this movie so much, and I was just as pissed off as everybody else when that movie did not get nominated for a Best Animated Feature Oscar. It's just like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, really? That movie is the one you're going to push off to the side? The most acclaimed movie of the year. The movie that basically relaunched Warner Brothers Animation to where it is today. And was a massive hit, too. And yet you're going to pretend like, oh, it came out 15 years ago, so no, you're not getting a nomination. It's a problem of two things with the Oscars. One, back then they didn't nominate movies that came out before April, because that was something that was a common thread for them back in the day. But on top of that, it's a brand movie, and very rarely do the Oscars give brand movies the proper respect. I mean, they did it with the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and a couple of other movies, but it's a rare commodity for a branded film, a film with a name brand with it, to get a nomination for a specific significant picture or Best Animated Feature award. It's why the Simpsons movie wasn't nominated for Best Animated Feature, for God's sakes. It was one of the most highly acclaimed movies released that year, and that movie doesn't get a nomination. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's just... yeah, it was one of the many problems that the Oscars had back then, but they have sort of come back around to it. Sort of. I mean, it's still kind of there once in a while, but yeah, back then it was very, very prevalent there. But regardless of what the Oscars think, the Lego Movie is a cinematic achievement, man. This is about as great of a movie as you could possibly imagine. What more do I gotta say about this film that has already been said? The Lego Movie is fantastic. It's well done. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. No question about it. We happy now? Good, because we're about to piss you off now.
Anthony, I feel like no one understands me.
Come on, you're amazing.
Think I'm amazing?
Don't get me started on that cute little butt of yours.
What?
What?
You're so annoying.
Why can't you just chill out?
Are you kidding?
What's your problem?
For Alexander, life couldn't get worse.
I can't believe Elliot texted photoshopped pictures of me to the whole school.
Nice boobs, Alexander.
My black book! Unbelievable.
For his family, life couldn't be better.
I got a call today. I have an interview for a game design firm.
You could be looking at the new vice president of Lone Hill Press.
Once I get my license tomorrow, I kind of have everything I've ever wanted. Hashtag blessed, you know?
But one day can change everything.
Shouldn't you guys be up?
Does anyone know where the diapers are?
Coming in for a razor, honey. Sorry!
Hey man, guys are ready for you.
Here you go.
First we thought it was a little weird that you even applied for this job because we're pretty young and you're
Older.
face is all green.
It's not poisonous. I don't think it's poisonous. I'll be your driving examiner.
My girlfriend probably won't start prom. We never answer the phone when I'm driving.
Proms don't happen every day.
Hey, Celia.
Put the phone down! You tricked me! Get out! I don't think he passed.
This day is so cursed.
You're not passing the blame on this one.
It was her fault.
I don't feel a problem for anyone. Stop! I think that you just gotta have the bad days so you can love the good days even more. Trust me, I would know.
We are not going to let this day get the better of us. Are we ready, Coopers?
Yes!
Let's go, Wreck-It Ralph.
It's very rare that I have to bring this out here, but yeah, this is going to be censored for those of you that don't know. I am lifting a finger that you should not be doing with a movie like this, but I'm sorry. Yeah, this movie definitely deserves that and then some. Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. More like Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Movie. Because, yeah, this movie is an insult to the book in general. I mean, but here's the story of this. For 12-year-old Alexander Cooper, every day is a bad day, and his family thinks he's being silly because they've never had a bad day. Yeah, you're going to tell me that none of these people have had a bad day in their lives, but no. On the day before his 12th birthday party, he learns that another boy is having a party of his own, and everyone is going to it. And another kink punks him online. So at midnight on his birthday, he wishes that his whole family could have a bad day. So we're not only taking the Diary of a Wimpy Kid aspect here, we're stealing from Liar Liar. Which, yeah, Liar Liar did this a whole lot better. And what a shocker, as things for the whole family go bad. His mom's car is broken, so they have to share a car. His sister has a cold and has to go on stage. His older brother, who's hoping to get his driver's license and to bring his girlfriend to the prom, has to deal with his girlfriend's snottiness and fails to get his license. His mom has a crisis at work, which could cost her job. His dad, who has a job interview, has to bring her younger brother with him, but because his pacifier is broken, he can't stop crying. Alex feels responsible. No, he should not feel responsible. This movie should feel responsible for how goddamn annoying it is. And yeah, that trailer, that was only a third of that is two quarters of that trailer. The rest of the trailer is literally nothing but screaming bad kids comedy. I mean, come on. I stopped it literally at the "come on, Wreck-It Ralph." Like, just, I would do it again, but yeah, I'm not doing it again. But you get the idea. This movie is nothing but a bad Disney clone of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, which coincidentally enough, not but 10 years later, they would have the rights to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid franchise, and they would surprisingly do a better job of adapting those into movies by making them animated instead of, doing what Fox did before this. But yeah, this is a movie that's basically their rip-off of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I mean, the cliches, the terrible jokes, the fact that most of the humor is centered on gross-out jokes, screaming, because apparently screaming is a form of comedy now, which can be in the right sense. Not in movies like this. And the worst part about it is, people ate this movie the fuck up. I mean, this movie was a big hit when it came out in theaters, and I just didn't get it, man. I mean, this is about as bad as The Odd Life of Timothy Green and his whimsicalness and trying to be this fun Disney family comedy and just failing miserably at it, man. This movie is an atrocious mess, and you think they would try to do the same thing with a reboot that they would do. With a reboot that they would do not too long after this, about 11 years later, and that one was surprisingly not that good either. And yeah, it got even worse reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, so that should tell you that maybe this property should not have worked as a live action feature film. Maybe it should be like a TV special or animated kids special, which, oh yeah, they did that back in the 90s. I remember that because CBS Story Break did one of these as an animated short, and it works a whole lot better there. I mean, the characters here are just obnoxious. The characters are not funny. The setup isn't funny. There's just nothing about this movie that works at all. It's just a terrible, terrible movie. I know I'm going to be one of the few people that says it, but I'm sorry. It's a bad movie. It's a terrible, terrible film.
Something is coming that is far beyond you and I. Unless you set my people free. I'm not negotiating. Too late. Remember this for eternity. Exodus, Gods and Kings, rated PG-13.
Hello and welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that make up December 12, 2014. We do have a couple of good movies, but of course we got to start with a really bad movie. And nothing says, a big adaptation of the Ten Commandments by having a movie directed by Ridley Scott that features 2 people who are not even close to the right race to play these characters here. We'll get to that in just a second, but Exodus, Gods and Kings. This is, of course, the story of one man's daring courage to take on the might of an empire. Using state-of-the-art visual effects and 3D immersion, Scott brings new life to the story of the defiant leader Moses, played by Christian Bale, as he rises up against the Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses, played by Joel Edgerton, setting 600,000 slaves on a monumental journey of escape from Egypt and its terrifying cycle of deadly plagues. So, yeah. It's pretty much the Ten Commandments in a remake of the Ten Commandments, essentially, except the commandments don't even show up until the very end of the movie. And really, this movie is just a waste of potential all across the board, and it cements Ridley Scott at nothing of but a shell of what he used to be. I mean, yeah, he'd have a couple of movies here and there after this that were good, like his next film, The Martian, and then a couple years later he would have House of Gucci, which I think is pretty fun. But yeah, since then, though, he's not the same person he was before. He keeps going back to Aliens. He keeps going back to Gladiator. I've touched on this before, but to this movie's credit, though, the special effects are impressive overall. The plagues, it's a cool scene. The final climax with the parting of the Red Sea is really good. I mean, but as we say, visuals don't always make the movie. You know, the acting is very good in here. You know, there was a lot of controversy back then about the fact that, you know, you have Christian Bale and, you know, Joel Edgerton playing these characters. You know, they made a big deal about, you know, what about all the Egyptian actors out there? And I completely agree with you, but nobody seemed to have a big deal back when the Ten Commandments came out, where you had a California-born Charlton Heston as Moses and Russia-born Yul Brynner as Ramesses. I mean, I get the point, but it's just at the same time, it's just kind of like, I mean, you gotta take one way or the other with this whole thing here, people. But I mean, yeah, the visuals are great, but what do we always say on here? They don't make the movie. Everything else about this is just lousy and uninventive, and with a reputation like Ridley Scott, and especially with a reputation from the Oscar-winning writer of Schindler's List, Steven Zazilian, you expect so much more for this. The characters are lacking of emotion or development, and it doesn't help that the script is so bland and forgettable. I mean, a guy like Steve Zazilian, who's written so many good movies, he's directed great movies. Searching for Bobby Fischer is one of those great examples. Like, you're telling me that you can't give us good character development for these characters? There's a huge problem here. If the cast looks like they don't care about what they're doing here, then why should we? But the biggest problem with this movie overall is the editing, which is absolutely abysmal. It ruins the pacing of the film. It takes a lot of the epicness of these big action shots. I mean, the editing is so bad. The parting of the Red Sea it's exciting, but it's not as exciting as it should be. How do you mess up one of the most memorable stories in this? I mean, now granted, Fox had a hand in editing this down from a supposed 4-hour cut that Ridley Scott had, but, you know, I mean, Ridley Scott's got to stop making these epic long movies, because I'm getting sick and tired of these long director's cuts that are coming way after the movies are released. Kingdom of Heaven was one of those examples where the cut that was in theaters was terrible, but the movie he made that was the extended cut was good. But unfortunately, he had to wait 4 months for the movie to come out on DVD to have that happen. And here, you know, we've not seen that director's cut since then. I don't think it has been released as far as I'm concerned. No, it's never been released. So what's the point? Why not just make one movie as it is instead of just, you know, coming in there and making this condensed down version of it? But, you know, I mean, Exodus, Gods, and Kings has a lot of the same problems that his Robin Hood movie had. I mean, the script is lousy, the characters are badly developed, the action sequences are lame and poorly edited. Sometimes they look cool, but the entire movie is edited into a sloppy mess that makes for one of the worst movies of the year, and it takes one of the most well-known biblical stories of all time and just doesn't do anything with it. If you really want to see the story done well in a movie, watch the Ten Commandments. Hell, watch The Prince of Egypt. The Prince of Egypt is one of those animated movies that you don't really think about it at first, but as time goes on, you realize that movie is much better than you initially thought it was. I know that was the case for me when I first saw it. I was like, it's good and all that, but yeah, the more I've watched it since then, the more I realize that, yeah, this movie is absolutely amazing and definitely should have gotten more attention back then, which it does have now. But sadly, Ridley Scott joins that list of people and filmmakers where I just go like, it's the 3 strikes list, man. The 3 strikes list is what I use to judge once great, talented actors and directors. And if you make 3 bad movies in a row and don't redeem yourself, you're out of here. You know, Jason Freeberg, Aaron Seltzer were in that list. M. Night Shyamalan was in that list before he revived his career the following year with The Visit, Katherine Heigl, Johnny Depp, Luc Besson, and now Ridley Scott, with the biggest disappointments in decades, Robin Hood, Prometheus, The Counselor. That's 3 movies right there. Four times the charm, man. And, Ridley Scott and I, and in the words of Christian Bale, we're done professionally. Fucking ass. And then, of course, he follows it up the year later with a good movie, and then goes back to crap again. But we'll touch on The Martian next year in 2015. But
Betrayed a kidnapping.
Guys, the team's back together.
You're all morons. I'm not hearing this. Is he being nice to us?
You're standoffish so far.
You assaulted me.
Mercilessly.
He's Fight Club himself. We got a Fight Clubber.
I'm gonna go freshen up, all right?
Oh, save me a shake.
First time in the slopes, so I'm gonna stay off the Black Diamond.
Horrible Bosses 2. Rated R.
no, really, this is the textbook definition of a Here We Go Again sequel, because it is literally the same plot as the first movie. Fed up with answering to higher-ups, Nick, Dale, and Kurt, once again played by Jason Bateman, Charlie Day, and Jason Sudeikis, decide to become their own bosses by launching their own businesses. But a slick investor, played by Christoph Waltz, soon pulls the rug out from under them. Outplayed and desperate and with no legal recourse, the 3 would-be entrepreneurs hatch a misguided plan to kidnap the investor's adult son, played by Chris Pine, and ransom him to regain control of their company. And the first Horrible Bosses movie is such a solidly funny, dark comedy with a lot of great dark humor and great chemistry from its stars overall. In fact, honestly, my favorite scene in Horrible Bosses can perfectly sum up my thoughts on Horrible Bosses 2.
Fucker! Son of a bitch! So fucking fired!
Just imagine me being Jason Bateman in that situation, and Horrible Bosses 2 is Kevin Spacey. That's really how I felt about this movie. Because really, once you see it, you'd be mad too if you saw what Horrible Bosses 2 did. I hated this movie. I really hated this movie. It's just a bad movie. It's because it's absolutely 100% pointless. There is no reason for this to exist whatsoever, because there is nothing creative about it, and it's another one of those stupid retreads of the first movie that aren't creative at all. This is a movie that is basically, let's regress the characters down from where they were at the beginning of the first to where they were in the first movie, and then let's just do the whole thing all over again. It's just like, these characters regress so hard in this movie. It's like the first film never even happened. So what's the point? What's the point of doing this all over again? It's just like, it makes no sense. There is only one good thing I can say about this movie that is really good, and that's Kevin Spacey when he has those brief cameos in this movie, and every line he says in this movie is fucking hilarious. He's basically the Chevy Chase in Caddyshack 2 in this movie. He's the only one that is delivering the best lines in the movie. He's the only one that's actually trying to save it, and he knocks it out of the park. He's the one thing about this movie that makes this all the worthwhile. Other than that, they've all regressed down to where they were at the beginning of the first film. They in fact, even worse than that, because they're basically just dumbasses in this. They were actually smartly written characters in the first movie, but here, it's like the writers decided to make them stupider because, we gotta create lame comedy bits. It's like what happened with Harold and Kumar with Escape from Guantanamo Bay, except even worse than that. And that's really the worst part about it, is that it's just a retread of the first movie, and literally, you can pinpoint every single thing that is going to happen from the first movie, to somebody getting mistaken for one thing, when it should be another, to them bumping off one of the characters to the big double-cross moment. Every single element from the first film is in this movie, and there's nothing about it that works whatsoever. If there's anything I can honestly say about Horrible Bosses 2, is that it's not a movie I feel offended by, like the Hangover sequels. Because the Hangover sequels, those are movies that, by the time they got to the third film, it was clear that they had no intentions on making a movie after the first film became the unexpected hit it was. Warner Brothers wanted the sequel so badly, so they said, just retread the first film again for the second movie, and then for the third film, I don't know, just throw some stuff at the wall, see what happens there, and it completely backfired big time. Especially, there's no point to make this film, especially not pointing it out on Thanksgiving weekend. When will studios learn you don't put R-rated stuff on Thanksgiving weekend because it's not going to make any money, especially a sequel to a movie that was successful because it came out in the summertime when an R-rated raunchy comedy does well. It does not work when you put this out on Thanksgiving weekend. It barely works when you put it out on Christmas weekend. I mean, the last couple of years we've had a couple of R-rated comedies that have done well on Christmas. You know, we had Nosferatu, which was an R-rated horror film a couple years ago that did really well on Christmas. You know, but it's just like, it feels like vapor going through my head. I saw it. I barely remembered the movie when I saw it. It doesn't leave a lasting impact on me, and it was just a movie that does not need to exist. There was no reason to make a sequel to this whatsoever. This is definitely one of the worst sequels I've ever seen because it's a movie where it's just so badly put together. It's just nothing except let's just make money again and not even try to be funny. Like, the best elements from the first movie are not in this film overall. A lot of the people are back from this movie, and they have nothing to do here. There's literally nothing about this movie that makes it worth it in the end. I mean, it's just a bad movie. It's a bad movie. One of the worst sequels I've ever seen. Just a complete waste of your time and effort. And it's funny because in a couple of months' time, we're going to have another R-rated comedy sequel that seems like it shouldn't exist at all. In fact, I was going into that one in particular with not a whole lot of high expectations, and I ended up really enjoying it. I actually thought they actually did something unique and different with it overall. But we'll touch on that when we get to I think it's either February or March when that came out. But we'll touch on that later on. But Horrible Bosses 2 is just a really, really bad sequel.
It was everything all at once.
The kind of love you fight for.
I promise you the best days of your life.
You're very sure of yourself. This is perfect, being here with you.
You have to trust me.
How?
I know I'm not good enough for you, but I'm going to spend my entire life proving that I am.
You know, we always talk about how people should stop remaking the good movies, remake the bad movies, because yeah, that's what you should be doing. Make bad movies better than the original film and make us forget about the god-awful movies, like the original Endless Love, which is a god-awful movie. It's a movie where you're literally supposed to get behind a guy who literally deflowers a young teenage girl with her mother watching from afar and not being shocked at all, just like she's so captivated by it. And then the same dude burns her house down and then kills her father, all because that he's obsessively in love with her. And the movie plays it off as charming and cute and happy when none of that should happen in this goddamn movie. And it became a massive hit. And yeah, it was around that same time when Brooke Shields was just in a movie, and basically everyone was trying to get her naked, even though she was way too young. And you know, sometimes they were doing this when she was underage too. So yeah, that's another bit of ewiness here. But even the writer of this book, Scott Spencer, hated that original film. So naturally, you know, he gets another chance to have one of his stories come to life and do it for a new generation of people. So okay, now you have a chance to do what we've been asking for so many years. Remake a bad movie and make it better. Does this movie do that? Of course it fucking does it. It somehow makes it even worse. And that's hard to believe, but good Lord. It's just clear that this book should never have been made into a movie whatsoever. To the point that even Scott Spencer himself said that this movie somehow even more embarrassingly messed up his movie. Like, he said that it was about 100 pages, and the only ones that were not dreary were sciatica-inducing. And in 2014, he wrote that his novel has been even more egregiously and ridiculously misunderstood in making the remake than in the 1981 film. How do you do that? Seriously, how do you do that with a film like this? I mean, good Lord. So in this one, you have Alex Pettyfer from I Am Number 4 in this, as a guy who has a crush on Jade, played by Gabrielle Wild from Carrie, and since the first time he saw her in the 10th grade. With high school coming to an end, David has never spoken to her until her family pulls up to the inn, where David works as a valet. She and David fall madly in love, and in a love that only goes stronger as parents try to tear them apart. David knows Jade's past, but as his secrets are slowly revealed, Jade's trust is tested and leaves them wondering if they're truly meant to be together. You know it's bad when the trailers for this don't even show you the stuff on the actual movie. No joke, the trailers they put out for this features none of the stuff that was in the fucking movie. And when that happens, you know you fucked up badly. You know you have seriously messed up. And yeah, this thing is just an ungodly mess of a movie that somehow makes the original look better by comparison. And that movie sucks too. This isn't made by a hack either. Shayna Festi directed this. She did Country Strong, which wasn't a great movie, but it certainly runs circles around this film in general here. At least that one was trying to do something, but this, oh my god. This is the literal definition of, we want our own Twilight movie, and it's just not here, man. Even the music is so badly put together here. You know, let's take the rockin' song of Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love and make it a soft, quiet song, because that's always the way that song has always been intended. It's like the Taylor Swift version of Santa Baby. It's just like, it's not meant to be sung as a goddamn country song. It's supposed to be sung as what Eartha Kitt made it out to be. Like, it's just, and Madonna too. It's just like, it makes no sense to do this type of stuff. Like, it's just such a god-awful movie, man. And again, it somehow makes this movie even more worse than the original film, and it's even less faithful to the source material. And it's just like, it's unbelievable how this thing continues to just be such a... It's just getting to the point where this thing should have never, ever have been made as a movie altogether. If they're going to screw this up not once, but twice, just don't even bother to make it, man. Like, this thing is just an abomination of a movie. It's one of the worst remakes you'll ever see in your life. It's just... yeah, it's pretty bad, so...
We're gonna go to jail, Jake!
Welcome
To our sex tape.
Oh, crap.
It's up on the internet for the entire world to see?
I'm on there, too.
Nobody cares about the guy.
Fair enough.
We have to get that back right now.
Who has sex for 3 hours? We did. That's the length of the movie Lincoln. You did the full Lincoln. Sex tape.
Lincoln jokes, because heaven forbid that Steven Spielberg's Lincoln will still be relevant in 2014 because of how long the movie is. And it's just like, if you're gonna do that joke, do it with something that came out not too long, not something that came out not too long ago. Do something like, you know, you could have done the Lord of the Rings or the Harry Potter, because that would have made a whole lot more sense. With this, it's literally date stamping the movie before the movie even is out. And that's one of the many problems of this movie. Because, yeah, like I said, this movie is awful. So you have Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz reuniting again for the first time since Bad Teacher as a couple who get together. Their romantic connection is intense, but 10 years and 2-year kids later, their flame of love needs a spark. So to kick things up a notch, they decide why not to make a video of themselves trying out each position in the Joy of Sex book in one marathon 3-hour session. It seems like a great idea until they discover that their most private video is no longer private. With their reputations on the line, they know they're just one click away from being laid bare to the world. But as to their race to reclaim the video leads them to a night they'll never forget, they'll find that the video will expose even more than they bargained for. I mean, this movie in particular is just... I mean, this is a mess, man. I mean, this movie beat me down when I saw it. I mean, I don't like it, and yet I don't hate it at the same time. It's not a bad movie on the levels of some of the other bad films I had to sit through, and one we're going to get to next week. Like, I think, like, movies like That Awkward Moment, Transcendence, and the film we'll get to next week are much worse, but with this, you expect so much more from it because of who's involved in it. And the fact that it's a lot of the same people that made Bad Teacher, which was a really funny summer comedy that came out 3 years ago. And we're getting to the point where raunchy R-rated comedies really are not the norm anymore. I mean, we get one every year that will break out big time, but yeah, this was getting to a point where we're not there yet, but we're getting to a point where the raunchy R-rated comedy was kind of dying out at this point. And I mean, to the movie's credit, Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel aren't bad in this. They have good chemistry together, as they showed in Bad Teacher, and that's really the only good thing I can say about the movie, is that the chemistry is very good between them. They just need a better script to work with here, because this movie is just... The biggest flaw of this movie is that it's just a lame movie. The plot definitely has some potential for comedy gold, and the film really doesn't do anything with it. The story is really not that intriguing whatsoever. It's just, here's an R-rated comedy that takes the easy way out and fails because of that. There's a stupid subplot where Rob Corddry's son wants $25,000 from Jason Segel for the tape, and there's not one point in this film before that showed this kid had anything against him. So where did that even come from? Why? Because Jason Segel had the Michael Jordan, LeBron James argument in Bad Teacher? Was that why we're doing this? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. And another problem with the movie is that for a raunchy comedy called Sex Tape, there's almost nothing raunchy about this movie. I mean, yeah, you get to see Cameron Diaz's ass every once in a while, but there's no boobs in here. There's not even that many scenes of them doing the positions in the video until the very end, which is basically a rip-off to the end of The Hangover. Like, it's literally done in pictures, just like the end of The Hangover does. But Bad Teacher had much more raunchier elements to it than this movie does. And another thing that's missing is the comedy. There's not one point in this movie where I laughed at all. There were so many points where I wanted to scream out, where's the fucking comedy at? Where's the joke? And really, the biggest problem with the movie, and this is what I hate about comedies, the bad comedies, is that the two main characters are freaking idiots. Because not only do they handle this entire situation extremely poorly, but they just don't think before they act. So Jason Segel's first thing that he does is that he's supposed to know about how this app he uses works, and yet he doesn't know how to get rid of the videos he has on this app. It's like, it's not hard to delete something off of an app, and the fact that they went to this insane level to go to this place where the video is at and just destroy everything to get rid of this app for no reason, except for have a plot that's just so stupid. It's just like, it felt like the people who wrote The Internship wrote this movie. You know, these old people who try to be hip with the kids and all that. And just like, you fail miserably at it. And it shows in here. But the cherry on top of what made me really mad about this movie, what made me really hate it the most. So there's a part in the movie where they have to go to the YouPorn headquarters to sneak in and make sure the tape doesn't get uploaded by destroying the servers. Which would be fine except for one tiny little problem. You brought your damn kids with you. You cannot be this stupid to bring your kids with you on not only an illegal crime, which could force you to lose your kids, by the way, but you're also dragging them to a place that houses pornographic video clips. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you out of your mind? These two are idiots. You make Jim from American Pie look normal. In fact, Jim from American Pie could have easily beat the crap out of these two for how stupid they are. They should have just called him before, because he found a way to get that video he did in the first American Pie off the internet with no problem whatsoever. Diaz and Segel, however, go to these insanely stupid levels to make sure that this shouldn't be this hard. Really damn difficult. Even the guy who runs the company, played by Jack Black, by the way, it says that, hey, you could have just done this and we could have taken the video down for you. It's just like, yeah. You know why they didn't do it? Because then you wouldn't have a movie, which is probably a good thing, because, yeah, this movie is really just an unbelievable mess of a film. Like, it's a film that, the more I think about it, it is probably one of the worst movies I saw that year, and I think it is one of the worst films I saw that year. For a film that's 94 minutes long, like, this just feels like vapor. It just goes in and comes out. It does not really leave an effect on you, except the fact that this movie in particular really does not have anything of merit to it whatsoever. Like, I mean, I think it's a bad movie. It's a lame, boring, lackluster movie with no creativity or thought put into it whatsoever. It's a film that is just such a mess. And yeah, like I said, this is the bottom of the barrel for Cameron Diaz in 2014. The other woman I thought was funny, and I like Annie. We'll get to Annie later on in the year. I'm one of the few people that actually likes that movie, but again, we'll touch on that at the end of the year. But yeah, movies like this, Sex Tape, really make you realize why Cameron Diaz probably retired, because if she's going to keep getting handed scripts like this, I wouldn't have blamed her for retiring after that. But yeah, this made The Sweetest Thing look like a better movie. And that movie was bad too, but The Sweetest Thing was at least trying to be funny. And it did with some of its odd things that they decided to put in there. I mean, it's not a good movie by any means necessary, but it certainly runs circles around this pile of garbage here. No question about it. This is one of the worst movies of the year. Sex Tape, just an unmitigated disaster. So
April 11th, we have encountered little macaws in the Amazon.
There are more of us out there.
I'm going to the Amazon. Yay.
Like the website.
Go wild.
She ate a bug.
Meet new friends.
My name is Clara. Oh, no, she didn't.
And blast off to an adventure for the whole family. Daddy?
You can call me sir.
From the creators of Ice Age,
We attack at the midnight hour because it's more evil.
Rio 2, rated G, April 11th.
yeah, you know, a sequel is desperate when they can't even come up with a new villain for the sequel. They have to go back to the old villain in general. I mean, it worked so well with Shrek the Third. No, it didn't. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We are taking a look at the 4 films that make up April 11th, 2014. And our first one is the biggest new release, Rio 2. It's a jungle out there for Blue, voiced by Jesse Eisenberg, Jewel, voiced by Anne Hathaway, and their 3 kids as they've hurdled Rio de Janeiro into the wilds of the Amazon. As Blue tries to fit in, he goes beak to beak with the vengeful Nigel, once again voiced by Jermaine Clement, and meets the most fearsome adversary of all, his father-in-law, voiced by Andy Garcia. And I really liked the first Rio movie. It was bright and colorful with likable characters, a good story, a voice cast that worked very well off each other, some spectacular animation. So how do you screw that up with a sequel in general? Oh wait, when they decide to rip off not only Shrek 2 and 3, but also the Meet the Parents movies and not be creative with it at all. I was so pissed off at how bad this movie was. This is one of the most uninspired and laziest kids sequels I have ever seen in my entire life. The one thing that still has going for it is the animation. The animation is still just as stunning and gorgeous as it was in the first movie, and that's the one thing I have to give it credit for. But, like I always said, visuals don't make the fucking movie. It's just like video games. The graphics can be spectacular, but the gameplay has to be good too. And most times when that happens, it's not. But yeah, this is a wasted opportunity on so many levels. Instead of just simply coming up with a clever sequel that would work well for a second film, a clever story for a sequel, they just repeat the same story done in Shrek 2, Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, and do absolutely nothing creative with it. It's literally the same movie, except just take Robert De Niro, Ben Stiller, and Shrek out of the picture and replace them with the characters from Rio. That's all this really is. And like I've said before, you know when there's no creativity when you're bringing back the same villain from the first movie, who was literally killed off in the previous movie. Well, technically, he wasn't. I mean, he looked like he did when he got blown through the airplane motor, but of course he did survive at the end of it. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, be more creative about it, man. That's why Shrek the Third didn't work all that well, because that was one of his problems. They brought back an old villain and tried to make him the main baddie in this, and he's no fairy godmother from Shrek 2. I'm sorry, but you're never going to be able to convince me of that. But on top of that, the characters from the first movie don't really change all that much, especially Blue. Blue, at least in the first movie, stood up for himself to save his girl at the end of the last film, but again, like with most sequels, it's basically just, oh, all of a sudden he's gone back down to being dumb again, just like in the first movie, because it's literally like he lost his boost of confidence in between films, and now he's back to being the pushover again, even with the kids that he has, and no more proof of that is clearer when Blue has to prove his manhood while Jules' childhood friend, voiced by Bruno Mars, enters the picture. Why does he just say, hey, back away from my girl, man, instead of just like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I've never had to deal with another man in another person's life. At least in The Rescuers Down Under, Jake was an intriguing character, and he wasn't necessarily a guy who was literally trying to completely try to steal Miss Bianca away from her, but, I mean, at least he was a tolerable character, but in this, man, it's just ridiculous. And the new characters they add leads into, my next problem with the movie, it's just another one of those movies where it says, let's call everybody in Hollywood and get them a role in here, even though they have no reason to play these roles. Like, not only do we have Bruno Mars, you got Andy Garcia, Janelle Monáe, Rita Moreno, Amanda Stoneberg, Kate Micucci, and especially Kristen Chenoweth. Well, some of the roles fit fine, I guess. There's just some that are really pointless casting. You got Kristen Chenoweth as a poison dart frog, and they even give her and Jermaine Clement their own song because, we're just coming off a Frozen success not but a few months ago, and Fox looked at that and said, well, we gotta have our own Frozen, so instead of getting Idina Menzel, let's get the other wicked girl in here, Kristen Chenoweth, and it doesn't work, man. It gets dark, too, for no reason whatsoever. There's literally a scene towards the end of the movie where the poison dart frog commits suicide. it looks like she commits suicide, and now it turns out she's not poisonous, but still, that's pretty fucking dark for a kid's movie. A G-rated kid's film, nonetheless, too. And it just goes to show how lazy and uninventive the writers were for this. It's a bad scene. It's on the same level as the Harold death scene from Shrek the Third. It's just, you think it's supposed to be, whoever wrote it thought it was funny. It was just uncomfortable and annoying, and yet, yeah, it was like that in this movie, too. It's a perfect way to describe the film. Bad, a disappointment. There's absolutely nothing new or creative like the first film did. It's a cookie-cutter, by-the-number animated sequel that does absolutely nothing new or creative with what it has at all. It's the third consecutive film where it feels like a letdown from Blue Sky Studios after Ice Age and Epic. I mean, there's not a shred of creativity at all. It's just, let's just do what everyone else is doing type of film. It's just like, I mean, you really could just call this movie what Smokey calls it what Smokey says in Friday. Real 2, I don't give a fuck, because that's literally what it feels like when you watch this movie. It felt like nobody who made this movie gave one fuck about what they're doing. So yeah, not much more to say about Rio 2.
Would make the perfect date movie.
Bridget Jones?
Good-looking doctor.
Morris Chestnut.
Fat teenage girl.
Marriage proposal.
A hooker sign. 2 little butterflies. Sad giraffe.
What about a BJ?
I'm good right now, but thank you.
Today.
I love the way we fit together in bed, because we're the same height. Our crotches line up perfectly.
It's called science. It's called disgusting.
Will be a date to remember.
What are you wearing?
So it's a different kind of dress-up party.
These are my parents.
I'm just gonna pretend this isn't happening.
That awkward moment. Rated R. In theaters today.
What's the perfect date movie? Not this fucking movie, that's for damn sure. And here's the thing. You look at it and you think to yourself, well, this doesn't look that bad. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look great, but come on, man. It's Zac Efron, Michael B. Jordan, Miles Teller. How can you go wrong? Well, that's what I thought at first, and then the movie, I saw it, and yeah, it's that bad, people. 3 best friends, played by Efron, Jordan, and Teller, find themselves where we've all been, at that confusing moment in every dating relationship when you have to decide, so where's this going? And like I said, this cannot be one of the worst romantic comedies ever made. It doesn't look that bad. You're just being crazy. And you're right. Like I said, it doesn't look bad. The trailers did show some promise. I mean, that scene where he's wearing the rock-out shirt, at his girlfriend's parents' anniversary party. I mean, that's funny enough. I mean, that has the potential to be really funny, but I'll save that for later, because let me tell you, in the movie, it's much, much worse than you could possibly imagine. But yeah, this is another reason why January is usually considered the dumping month for bad movies. And this one was not just bad, this was really bad. I'm talking one of the worst romantic comedies I've ever had to sit through. Bride Wars, All About Steve, Something Borrowed are worse, but this comes that close. I could not believe how terrible this movie was the first time I saw it. I like these actors. Zac Efron has come into his own since his years at High School Musical. Michael B. Jordan is quickly growing into one of our promising stars at that time. Miles Teller is another rising actor. He was in Spectacular Now and Project X, in Project X. And, the first 20 minutes actually did work. I mean, it was really enjoyable. But once the actual story kicks in, and then we meet the women who will play a part in the story. Imogene Poots as Efron's love interest, Jessica Lucas as Jordan's wife, ex-wife, wife. I mean, it's complicated. And Mackenzie Davis as Teller's love interest. That's when the film begins its inevitable downfall. Now, a romantic comedy that has been done to death can still work if the chemistry between the main characters is really good. It can be the most predictable romantic comedy ever made, but hey, if the chemistry works, then your film can carry itself over. And about 2/3 of the couple in this movie, unfortunately, share no chemistry whatsoever. Like Zac Efron and Imogene Poots and Michael B. Jordan and Jessica Lucas. These two are supposed to give us the idea that they are married and they share no chemistry whatsoever. The only couple I cared about in this was Miles Teller and Mackenzie Davis. And they really are the best parts of the movie. But then again, Michael B. Jordan's also pretty good too. I mean, it's Michael B. Jordan. The guy can pretty much do no wrong. And you do care about those two, Jordan and Teller. Zac Efron, wow, I mean, he is one of the most unlikable douchebags you will ever see in a movie. I mean, just the fact that he was probably trying to change his image around, but good lord, this character he plays is so unlikable and is just such a selfish dick. He meets Imogene Poots and then automatically thinks she's a hooker. leaves her apartment after sleeping with her, and in the power of Deus Ex Machina is an author that shows up at the company he works for, and in a meeting, and yet he still tries to hit on her. That should have been the first red flag for this movie. But to never see this guy again, for this girl too. But no. The second sign comes as he makes a comic strip for her to apologize for the accusations, and she sees him again. And I never thought I'd see a more poorly executed way to get back together with somebody since Rad. You know, the scene where, you know, in the movie Rad where, you know, the main character and Lori Loughlin have just broken up, and then, you know, they have their big third act breakup, and then they gotta come together again. But instead of saying something like, you know, I'm sorry I was a jackass, you know what the guy does? Points to a poster of like I think it was like Panda Bears or something like that. It's just like, let's be friends. And it's just like, I mean, really? I mean, that's corny enough on its own merits, but this one may take the cake. I mean, this is pretty bad. And the third sign is when a first date with Poots' character. What does Efron do? Automatically cheats on her with another woman because Poots wouldn't put out. And he never gets called out on this ever again. So not only that, you just made adultery seem A-okay. And it's just like, this is bordering on Entourage movie levels of obnoxiousness, because the Entourage movie basically said, fuck being mature, fuck being a grown-up. No, just go ahead and bang all these hot women and no consequences whatsoever. But the moment that really, really just took me out of the movie altogether, that scene I was talking about earlier where, you know, Efron comes to this dress-up party wearing this t-shirt that says rock out. But no, it's funny in that trailer, but it gets so much worse as the movie goes, as in the actual movie. So they go to an adult store, and after Poots tells her that he's invited to a dress-up party, Efron takes the idea of dressing up as wearing a t-shirt that says rock out, and having a fake penis out to tell her, I'm here to rock out with my cock out. And to add insult to injury, he wears the fake penis throughout the entire scene, and doesn't take it off whatsoever. When that moment happened, I swear to God, I felt like Stewie after he watched Bewitched in that episode in that skit from Family Guy. Like I wanted to punch. I wanted to be like Stewie Will Ferrell and just punch the shit out of him. Like get on a plane, go to the nearest hardware store, find Zac Efron's house, knock on the door, go up the ladder, knock on the door, and Zac Efron opens the door and he'd be like hello, and then just punch him punch him right in the face. It's just like, that's not funny, because it's not funny. I mean, this movie is just, it really is because Zac Efron is really just a bad character overall. The biggest fuck you of this movie is when his father dies, and instead of doing the smart thing, her father dies, like Imogen Poots' father dies, and, you know, instead of doing the smart thing and, you know, hey, go with her to the funeral, be with her by her side when she needs to be, I mean, she needs somebody to comfort her, he can't, because he doesn't want to admit he loves her. And honestly, at that point, I was literally banging my head against the theater wall for 20 seconds straight, because it's just like, this is the biggest jackass you will ever see in a movie like this. I don't care who the hell you are or what your relationship status is with somebody. If a friend or family member is going through a rough time or needs you to be there to agree with them, you need to be there with them. I don't like going to funerals. Nobody does. But you know what? I go there to respect the dead, respect everybody who knew them, and yeah, it's a tough thing to do, but you know, this really is, like, the scene that follows that, where they have to comfort each other, and she just calls him out for the jackass that he is so rewarding to watch, because she is right in everything she says. He deserves to hear it from her mouth, and at that point, the movie should have just ended there. If the movie would have ended there, I probably would have given it a better review, but unfortunately, not in this movie's world. No, we gotta keep it going, and the film ends with the number one thing I hate about movies nowadays: an unfinished story. What the fuck is wrong with you? After all the shit you put up with this jackass, you have to have a goddamn ending and not be just like, no, you decide what's next, viewers. We got your money, so now we're gonna laugh at your ass for sticking around with this bullshit. Like, Zac Efron is such a mess of this movie, and it's not really his fault. It's just the character that he's playing is so badly written and such a jackass. And if any girl out there thought anything he did in that movie was rationally sound and still found them attractive, I never want to meet them again. But unfortunately, that's just the way the world works nowadays, unfortunately. And on top of that, this thing literally feels like a New Girl movie adaptation. Remember, for those of you who don't know the show New Girl, Zooey Deschanel was on it. It was a show where, you know, this movie feels like kind of a prequel before Jess lives in the apartment. And when you really think about it, Michael B. Jordan's character reminded me of Winston, Damon Wayans Jr., and Lamont Morris. Well, Damon Wayans Jr. was technically in the pilot, but then Happy Endings got renewed, so it was Lamont Morris. Zac Efron's a lot like Schmidt. Who's that guy? Max Greenfield. Imogen Poots has a lot of things that remind me of Cece, her friend on the show, played by Hannah Simone. Miles Teller's a lot like Nick, played by Jay Johnston, I think it is. I've seen the show before. I should remember these names. Mackenzie Davis reminds me a lot of Jess. And it really makes you think about it, and then think to yourself, this is New Girl the movie. This is like they took New Girl and basically just said, we're going to make a movie out of it, even though there's no reason to. Like, how did I not see that? And it's funny, because guess who the director of this movie was? Tom Gormican. Guess which movie he just had coming out this holiday season? Anaconda. Another terrible comedy from this director. And the funny thing is, this movie basically is... This director has made one good movie in his life, and that's The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And that was a much better movie than this one and Anaconda combined. I mean, this guy's not a good director, so that one he just got lucky because he had Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal to work with here. But yeah, I was one of those suckers because I thought this film was going to be something different, and it actually was. And I have to say to this director, fuck you, man. Fuck you for making two god-awful comedies. One that I just saw recently, and one that you haunted me with 11 years ago. Like, this movie fucking sucks, man. This took everything out of me when I saw it. It's a story taken out of a plot from New Girl. The cast is wasted. It's boring. It's not funny. It's just a disaster of a movie. Stop making terrible romantic comedies like this, because we're not dumbasses. We are not idiots who will buy whatever crap you throw at us. Have a point. Be like Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener. Like, give me a reason to stick with these characters, even though they may be polar opposites at first. This is a movie that is so goddamn terrible. It's not only one of the worst films of the year, it might very well be the worst romantic comedy I've ever seen in my life. And trust me, that's saying a lot. And here's the good news, though. As bad as this movie is, my day was not ruined because the movie I saw the next after that really brought me back, gave me hope again. And we'll touch on that next week, but I think you know which film I'm talking about, but we'll get to that in the next episode. But if you really want a bad movie, oh boy, this next one here, The Nut Job. Just watch the clip here, and that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how bad this fucking movie is.
I've been casing this place for days. With the nuts in that store, we can feed the whole park. Ew. You want to break into this joint? Survive the winter? You talk to me.
Let's do it!
The Nut Job is the #1 family movie in America.
We're gonna make it rain nuts!
Don't miss one crazy crew.
This movie fucking sucks. I mean, do I even need to explain why? That is Psy doing Gangnam Style in a movie that I need to remind you that this takes place in the 1950s. The 50s. Like, if that's not bad enough, then I don't know what else to tell you, but, I mean, what more do you have to say about it? It's a movie where a bunch of squirrels want nuts, and I swear, if you take a drink, if you take a drink that every time you hear someone say the word nuts, you'll be dead by the time this movie is over. They say this word 200 times in 86 minutes of runtime. And this thing was a massive hit, which still baffles me to this very day. Like, there was still, you could still see Frozen out there. You could still see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. You could still see other family films out there. You don't have to go and waste all that money on this garbage, because, yeah, this is a mess of a movie, which I touched on it in a longer review. If you want to go check it out, my worst movies of all time, I did that. It was number 12 on my worst of the year, on my worst movies list of all time. So, if you want to check that out, there's the link in the corner, but what more do I gotta say? The story is stupid. The characters are horrible. The characters are rip-offs of stuff from other movies. I mean, for God's sakes, they rip off Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, which is funny because the sequel that came out 3 years later rips off the Brain too. So we can go ahead and give Warner Brothers everything it needs to do to sue the hell out of these filmmakers, which they should have done. But it's a torturous movie. It's insulting. It treats kids like they're idiots. It's one of the worst things I've ever had to sit through. It's again, all in greater detail over in that corner. There's
a machine with a full range of human emotion. A sentient machine will overcome the limits of biology. And in a short time, its analytical power will be greater than every person in the world. I call it Transcendence.
Where are you going? Everywhere. Transcendence. Rated PG-13. Experience it in IMAX April 18th.
God, even the marketing in this movie is extremely pretentious. That's just one of the many, many problems with this movie. So, in this movie, Johnny Depp plays Dr. Will Castor, who's the foremost researcher in the field of artificial intelligence, working to create a sentient machine that combines the collective intelligence of everything ever known with the full range of human emotions. His highly controversial experience have made him famous, but they've also made him the prime target of anti-technology extremists who are willing to do whatever it takes to stop him. However, in their attempt to destroy Will, they inadvertently become the catalyst for him to succeed to be a participant in his own transcendence. For his wife Evelyn, played by Rebecca Hall, and best friend Max Waters, played by Paul Bettany, both fellow researchers, the question is not if they can, but if they should. Their worst fears are realized when Will's thirst for knowledge evolves into a seemingly omnipresent quest for power, to what end is unknown. The only thing that is becoming terrifyingly clear is that there may be no way to stop him. So yeah, it's basically the Lawnmower Man, except instead of being a fun look into the future overall, it's the most pretentious piece of garbage ever. But not only that, the trailers made it look like a mix between Akira, Chronicle, Inception, and also a little bit of Blade Runner, Star Trek, Star Wars, Revolution, whatever sci-fi franchise is out there is in this movie, and it made for a terrible, horrible movie. I mean, this movie is atrocious, and it's the biggest problem with it is that everything about this movie is just so pretentious and so up its own ass. Like, it's a movie that likes to sniff its own farts, pretty much. Like, I mean, this thing is so unsubtle about everything. You can literally predict everything that's going to happen. Like, one of the biggest things that really came out of nowhere is where one person in the audience at this seminar that Johnny Depp is at goes like, are you trying to make your own god? And then 30 seconds later, it's the guy, he got shot. Guess who shot him? The guy who asked the damn question. It's just like, they didn't even try to set that up overall. Just like, no, this guy right here is going to be the one that kills him. And it's just like, it's like, it's trying to be so symbolic and so subtle and failing miserably at it because the writer clearly doesn't have any idea about subtle and symbolic elements after watching this. None of this makes any sense whatsoever. The anti-terrorist extremists are so much against technology. In order to track somebody down, they need technology. It's like the extremists came from the planet the people hated technology from Star Wars Insurrection came from. We have no idea if they're supposed to be the bad guys or is Will supposed to be the bad guy. It has no idea who we're supposed to root for or despise. And it's just like, this movie is just such a waste of everyone's time. Rebecca Hall, Morgan Freeman, who's going to be in the other movie that is actually my worst movie of all time later in the year, and Paul Bettany. Like, these are people who are just so wasted in here. There's nothing in this movie that makes it worth it. Sorry about that. But, I mean, the visuals aren't even that good. This is a $100 million movie where you barely see the visuals. Like, the only real visual you can see is that, Will can heal people's wounds. But even then, that is so hard to see. Like, where did the $100 million go for this movie? It tricks you into thinking that you're in for this epic sci-fi adventure thriller. Come see it on IMAX screens. Why? Like, it gives you, all it is that it's giving you a simplified script with no explanations for anything, no visual wonder, a great cast wasted on this material, and just an unpleasant movie-going experience. Like, this movie is a fucking joke. This whole thing is nothing but a fucking joke on the face of anybody who is expecting a smart, slick sci-fi thriller. It's a simplified piece of bullshit that fails on every single level and has nothing new or rewarding to offer. The fact that this came from Christopher Nolan's cinematographer, Wally Pfister, it's just like, this is his first movie as a director. And it so far has been his only film as a director because, yeah, he probably looked at this and went like, oh my god, this movie is fucking pretentious. Hell, I'm gonna go back to cinematography now. It's like, it's a bad movie. It's a really, really bad film. Yeah, I know. You think I'd be starting the show off with a little bit more professionalism, but I'm sorry. when I have to talk about the worst movie-going experience I've ever had in my life, the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, even somebody like me that doesn't drink has to go ahead and plow a few. So, with all that said, let's prepare to head back into that hell once again. Bottoms up.
It's 10% of our brain. Now let's discuss a special case.
Somebody put a bag of drugs in me that will allow me to use 100% of my brain.
That's amazing.
Since when did you start writing Chinese?
Since an hour ago.
Her brain capacity is increasing by the minute.
What happens when she reaches 100%?
I have no idea. Lucy, rated R.
Alright, let's get something straight out of the gate first of all. This is not alcohol. In fact, it's far from it. This is actually, believe it or not, here's a relic of COVID times. This is a bottle of hand sanitizer. And even this thing smells like hand sanitizer. Like, you can't smell it at home, but yeah, this thing literally still smells like hand sanitizer. Even though I did clean this out 6 years ago. It even tells you on the front there, do not drink it, which I don't think anybody needs to tell you not to drink hand sanitizer. And by the way, it's actually brought to you by Faber Liquor. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's the prop I've been using there. So, sorry to ruin the illusion for you, but no, I don't drink. And, yeah. But if I did, it would certainly be for the movie that we're about to talk about here. Welcome, everybody, to Time About the Movies. Today, we have a massive show for you with 6 movies on the docket today for July 25th, 2014. But before we get to any of the other ones that are actually tolerable, or at least somewhat enjoyable, we have to go to the bottom of the barrel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are new to this channel and have never seen the other videos I've made about how much I hate this movie, welcome to the worst movie I have ever seen in my entire effing life, Lucy. Now, Luc Besson was one of the pioneers of the 90s action movie. You know, he made classics like La Femme Nikita, Leon the Professional, The Fifth Element. However, like most film pioneers of the time, there comes a point where that badass awesomeness has to slip away, and people start to realize that, yeah, you're getting older, and your shtick is getting too old. We've seen it with many directors out there, Rob Cohen, Ridley Scott. We're seeing it now with James Cameron with Avatar, Fire and Ash. But, yeah, Luc Besson's definitely one of those directors who really, really just... Oh, God, this movie. If you never saw my original full-length video talking about how much I hate this movie, here's kind of a rundown of why I hate this movie so much. So in this movie, Scarlett Johansson is a woman who's accidentally caught in a drug deal and turns the tables on her captors and transforms into a merciless warrior evolved beyond human logic. Like, I'm not even kidding, folks. I really felt like, when I saw this movie for the first time, I thought I lost a bunch of my own brain cells watching this, because I got out of this movie, I was literally questioning life itself and wondering how something this bad can make it into theaters and be a big hit. Because, yes, this was a massive hit at the box office, and some may argue it was the Scarlett Johansson factor, because, you know, people go to see her in these movies, and, she knows how to draw people into these films, and they become big blockbuster hits. There's a reason why she's she's considered one of the top-grossing box office stars of all time at this point. I mean, Jurassic World Dominion was a massive success with her involved in it. I mean, it's getting to the point now where everyone wants to put her in these movies. I mean, she's going to be in The Exorcist coming up. She's going to be in Tangled, although I think that actually was a rumor where, she passed it up because she's actually going to be doing the Batman next, if I'm not mistaken. I could be misreading on that, but I don't know. I think I'd have to go in and check again. But the point I'm trying to get across is that people will go to see her in any movie she's in, regardless of how terrible it is. And boy, this was bad. How bad is it? It's worse than Transcendence. Let me repeat that. This movie is worse than Transcendence. How is that even possible? Transcendence, as bad of a movie as that was at least trying to tell a story and give you reasons for why the characters were doing what they were doing. They failed to explain that well in that movie, but they tried. This one doesn't even try at all. Luc Besson, who also wrote this, by the way, basically told his fans, his loyal fans, you know what, I don't want to tell you something new, because that's what this movie feels like. It's literally a retread of Limitless, only not smartly written and not a good film. Like, this is basically the two key elements of action films today. car chases and shootouts, spliced in with pointless, and I mean pointless, stock footage to show off the director's artistic bullshit, or, as a film bane liked to call it back in the day, symbolism! Like that type of thing. And not only that, the acting is terrible in this. Scarlett Johansson is completely wasted in this movie, taking all that badassness that we saw in Black Widow and in Captain America the Winter Soldier, just giving her nothing to do except to just be a bland, lame action heroine with no emotions whatsoever. Angelina Jolie and Soda's looking a whole lot better by comparison, and that movie sucked too. The fact that you made Salt look better than this movie is just fucking pure evil. And that is not any clearer with the addition of Morgan Freeman, who once again, just like he did in Transcendence, sees this and says, well, I don't know what this means, but hey, it's got Scarlett Johansson in it, so I guess I'll be in it. Like, stop taking these terrible movies that make no sense to you. Like, Morgan Freeman literally has nothing to do in this movie except to just be the exposition guy, and it just is a failure on so many levels. Oh my god, like I felt like when he saw the script, I feel like he needs to be more. Is when script guy keeps bringing him scripts for this, for bad movies like this, he should have just gone to one of his other agents and says, "Shoot this motherfucker!" Like be the guy in Wanted. Just get out of this situation, man. Lucy has nothing to do in this movie whatsoever. There is 2 scenes in this movie where she has the bad guys right where she wants them, defenseless. Does she decide to kill him off or get a revenge on him like you're supposed to? I mean, they literally drug this person up to put her in this situation here. You know what she does? Lets him go for no reason. Is this a revenge film? Like, what are we doing here? Like, seriously, what is the point of this movie where you literally have the main person who's been fucked over by these people do nothing to him? It's just like, yeah, I've got you where I want them. Okay, I'm gonna let you go then, bye. It's just like, what are we even doing here? Like, it's just, nothing is ever explained in this movie. They never talk about, why is this happening to Lucy? They don't explain why they need to do the stuff she does in this. They never explain what the purpose of her plan is. Nothing is ever explained in this movie whatsoever. There's nothing about this movie that anybody should be happy with, especially Luc Besson. Like, he should be ashamed of himself for putting this abomination on his name. Like, this is what he stands for. This movie is just, it's fucking terrible, man. It's terribly acted. The story is all over the place. Nothing about it makes any sense. It is very much high up there with some of the worst movies I have ever had the misfortune of sitting, and it is without a doubt the worst thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, this one just took the cake for how lazy and uninspired it was. This film is a mess of a film. Like, I hope Luc Besson never makes a good movie again for the rest of his goddamn life, because, yeah, this movie is just fucking awful. Awful. And I go into greater detail on this in the video I did. If you want to check that out, it's in the corner. It's down below. Go check it out there. But I'm sorry, this movie fucking sucks. I hate this movie more than any other movie that I've ever had the misfortune to sit through. Like, this... Have you got the point yet? Have you got the point that this is awful? Well, I did it.